Chapter 255. That night, along with the painful growls, everyone's mood fluctuated. Finally, when the sound returned to normal. Under everyone's expectant eyes, Mizuki came out of the temporary medical tent. Asuma ran up and looked at him from head to toe. Huh? Why do I feel that you didn't become ugly? Is it because you were already ugly, so the change wasn't obvious? Mizuki squinted his eyes. Idiot. He's just an ordinary ninja, of course. The effect of the surgery can't be compared to Garashi. Asuma was dumbfounded. In other words, Hiriko's appearance is completely due to his own mess, and the Onigiri Jutsu doesn't have any ugly side effects? Maybe. Oh, what a loss. If you really want to transform, while the war is still going on, catch a few enemy Kekii Genkai and ask Garashi to transform you, but don't blame me for not reminding you. If you don't persist, I can't guarantee what will happen to you. Mizuki said with a hint of fear in his eyes. Perhaps it's because he has already transplanted the Mokuton Genkai. The rejection of these two Kekii Genkai was extremely strong. At that time, his body almost collapsed, and even with his endurance, he couldn't help but scream in pain. Recalling Mizuki's scream before, Asuma suddenly stopped. He knows Mizuki's perseverance, and even Mizuki almost couldn't persist, so his success rate shouldn't be too high. Indeed, this time I was a bit reckless. Garashi came out a few steps behind Mizuki and said with a heavy voice, the rejection of one Kekii Genkai is still within the acceptable range, but transplanting two Kekii Genkai at the same time will put a great burden on the body, and if you're not careful, your genes will collapse and you will become like Hiriko. Even for Mizuki, I only dared to let him try it because he has Sage Mode. Kakashi touched his left eye and said sympathetically, according to Senpai, my eye is a perfect fit, but even so, it has a defect that it can't be closed. It can be seen that there is considerable risk in any kind of blood transplants. Then I'll pass. Asuma laughed twice and quickly changed the topic. By the way, Mizuki, how do you feel now? Can you use those two Kekii Genkai normally? Very good. Shuei-mu lowered his head and looked at his hands. His eyes were filled with amazement. This feeling of power is really intoxicating. He had been oppressed for too long. He had mastered a powerful bloodline like the wood release, but he didn't dare to use it because of his misgivings. He had mastered a powerful ability like the immortal mode, but it also had the drawbacks of a long activation time and a short duration. It was difficult to use it in battle. Now, he finally had a powerful strength that could match him. Although they were all bloodline inheritances that were easy to beat up, at least they could buy him some time to activate Sage Mode. Although the blood lineage is very powerful, don't rely too much on these two abilities. Garashi warned seriously, after all, Dark Release and Steel Release are not passive. If the enemy's attack is faster than your ninjutsu, these two Kekii Genkai won't work. Hearing Garashi's warning, Shuei-mu calmed down from his excitement. Indeed, wasn't Hiriko himself the best proof? Encountering an unreasonable expert like Garashi, no matter how unsolvable the ability was, it could still be broken by brute force. His own strength was the most important thing. Shuei-mu nodded solemnly. I know. With my current strength, I still have a long way to go before I can help you, Garashi. Asuma's tone was a little sour. You've improved a lot this time. With these two Kekii Genkai, most jonins won't be your opponent. It's not as exaggerated as you say. Shuei-mu was very sober and said calmly, at most, I'm on par with the enemy. They can't do anything to me, and I can't do anything to them. Shizun nodded thoughtfully. That's true. After all, you need some time to activate Sage Mode, and if the enemy finds that they can't do anything to you, they won't be stupid enough to stay there and wait for you to use your big move. Kurenai smiled with her hands behind her back. It's already very good. At least our team has a character like you who specializes in attracting firepower. It will be much easier for us to do missions. Shuei-mu's face turned black. The ability he obtained through suffering and torture wasn't for the sake of taking a beating. Kakashi said from the side, you now have two Kekii Genkai. To reach the final form mentioned by Hiriko, you still need 3 more. You must hurry up. If you miss this battle, it will be difficult to capture enemy Kekii Genkai again. Hearing Kakashi's words, everyone didn't show any strange expressions. Just like Kirin's transplanting of Byakugan, it's very reasonable to obtain spoils of war on the battlefield. Hirako was wanted mostly because he attacked a ninja from the same village as him. It should be 3. Shueimu muttered to himself, then calmly said, to reach the final form, you need to meet the 3 conditions mentioned by Hirako. Heaven, Earth, and Man. Man is the limit of the 5 Kekii Genkai, Earth is Mount Sumeru, and Sky is the celestial phenomenon of the Golden Ring solar eclipse. Although there are 2 to 5 solar eclipses per year, if you want to observe one from Mount Sumeru, the cycle will be very long. The next one will be more than 10 years later. More than 10 years. Rin exclaimed, will it take that long? Shueimu nodded, it's precisely because there's still a long time before the ceremony that Hirako didn't capture Kakashi the first time, but intended to use him as a vessel to nourish the Sharingan. But this is also good, if there's enough time, we can slowly choose a suitable Kekii Genkai. Kurenai nodded slightly. A suitable Kekii Genkai. Asuma rubbed his chin, if it's the old man, he will most likely choose Sekai Genkai. Sekai Genkai? Rin's expression was a little puzzled, although the ability to become invisible is indeed powerful. But for someone of Naruto, Sama's level, shouldn't it be easy to perceive the existence of the enemy? Asuma winked, it's too wasteful to use Sekai Genkai in combat. For reconnaissance? Rin tilted her head, but does Naruto, Sama need to? Seeing that Rin wanted to ask more, Kakashi coughed twice, let's stop here, it's getting late, everyone should go back and rest early. With that said, he glared fiercely at Asuma. Asuma knew that he was in the wrong, so he scratched his nose and smiled, haha, I'm a little tired. Huh? I haven't finished asking yet. Rin muttered in a low voice, and everyone set up their tents and prepared to go to sleep. Garashi walked towards the tent where he performed the surgery, you guys go to sleep first, I'll find a place to bury Hirako. Everyone wasn't worried, with Garashi's strength, it's impossible for him to encounter any danger. If he really encounters an enemy, it's the enemy who will be in danger. Chapter 256. In the depths of the forest, there were only a few scattered stars, and it was eerily quiet. But for the dead, this kind of environment could actually prevent them from being disturbed. After burying Hirako, Garashi activated his perception barrier and unsealed the Shinigami's mask from the scroll he carried with him. His right hand brushed the mask, and a soulless spirit floated out of it. The reason he left the tent a few steps behind Mizuki was to collect Hirako's soul. After all, Hirako was a rare scientific talent in the ninja world, it would be a pity if he died just like that. Hirako, who had just recovered from the dead, didn't understand the situation and asked in confusion, is this the underworld? Sorry to disappoint you, but this is still the modern world. A gentle voice came from the side, waking Hirako up from his stupor. Turning around, Hirako exclaimed in disbelief, why are you here? Garashi smiled gently, what's the matter, surprised to see me? I just didn't expect. Hirako squeezed out an ugly smile, the light of the wood leaf, who is said to be the embodiment of all beautiful words, would actually play with other people's souls. Garashi shook his head lightly, I have no interest in playing with your soul, if I have to say, I should be fulfilling your wish. Fulfilling my wish? Hirako's soul trembled as he looked at Garashi with excitement. You are willing to let me continue the experiment of the Onijirai Jutsu? Looking at Hirako's excited expression, Garashi felt a little embarrassed. It's one thing to squeeze out all the value of others when they were alive, but now he's not even letting them go after death, even the capitalists in his previous life were kinder than him. However, for Hirako, this should be considered a blessing, right? Thinking of this, Garashi felt at ease. I do want to borrow your ability, but in my opinion, your Onijirai Jutsu is not a success. Being criticized by a layman, Hirako was furious, and he didn't care about the situation he was in. What do you know? The Onijirai Jutsu is an ultimate ninjutsu that can transform an ordinary ninja into a perfect form. Garashi was not angry, and calmly discussed, what is real perfection? Have you seen a real perfect ninja? Hirako was suddenly speechless, and said with some dissatisfaction, have you ever seen a real perfect ninja? Garashi spread out his hands and said innocently, I didn't say that I can transform into a perfect ninja. Hirako was speechless. After a moment of silence, he said with some doubt mixed in his longing, immortal, able to learn all ninjutsu should be the perfect ninja, right? Garashi continued to bicker, then what makes you think that the onigiri technique can grant immortality? Alright, that's just my guess. The corner of Hirako's eyes twitched, and he reluctantly admitted that he was suspected of false propaganda, but he still insisted. But this conjecture is not without basis. Every ninja knows that chakra is the combination of physical and spiritual energy, and the complete exhaustion of chakra means death, so what if one absorbs chakra from nature and reverts chakra into physical and spiritual energy? Garashi asked with great interest, does it mean that one's vitality can also be replenished? Hirako nodded excitedly. Infinite vitality means that no matter what kind of fatal injury one receives, one can instantly recover. It's hard to say whether it will extend one's life, but it can definitely achieve the immortal body I mentioned before. Garashi nodded thoughtfully, but what does this have to do with your onigiri technique? Hirako proudly said, to achieve the immortal body, there are two requirements. One is to absorb chakra from nature, and the second is to revert chakra back to its original state, both of which require one to comprehend the essence of chakra, and the onigiri technique is to establish the relationship between the 5 elements in the body, and then comprehend the truth of all things. Seeing that Garashi seemed to be shocked by his words, Hirako nodded with satisfaction, and then explained, in fact, this is similar to the principle of Kekkei Genkai and Kekkei Genkai elimination, both of which are integrated with chakra, but they are completely superior to the other two, because it contains the complete power of the 5 elements. Hirako looked at Garashi proudly, waiting for the other party to be shocked, but what greeted him was a slightly disappointed sigh, only the 5 elements, no yin and yang. Hirako frowned, are you kidding me? Yin and yang are completely different attributes from the 5 elements, how can this be? Looking at the forest blooming in Garashi's palm, Hirako muttered to himself in a daze, would release? No, I can feel it more clearly in my soul form, the power contained in it is clearly the yang attribute of chakra, right? This is incredible, it's simply incomprehensible. Hirako muttered to himself, then looked at Garashi with a feverish gaze, how did you do it? The forest in Garashi's palm quickly went through a cycle of life and death, then dissipated into the wind. This is the result of my research on the yin-yang release. You don't have to pay too much attention to it, I'm just showing you the correct path. It had to be said that Blackie's body was truly mysterious. In the past year, although he hadn't made any progress in the development of the yin-yang release, his understanding of the yin and yang releases had reached an extremely high level. The result of his research on the yin release was reflected in the Shinigami's mask, while the result of his research on the yang release was the advancement of the wood release, false, to the wood release, true, stage. Of course, this was also thanks to his proficiency in the yin and yang releases. The correct path? Hirako wasn't disappointed, instead, he was very excited. I really died for the right reason. If I didn't die, how could I come in contact with the truth of this world? Garashi nodded slightly, I told you this is a blessing. Since you didn't consider the fusion of the yin release, why did you take the Sharingan? Hirako was silent for a moment. The Kekkei Genkai of the 5 elements are the fusion of the 2 chakra attributes, meeting the conditions of the 5 elements. It's reasonable to say that you only need 3 Kekkei Genkai. I took the Sharingan more for the final ritual. The final ritual is too important. I have to carefully control each chakra in order to succeed, and to do this, I need to rely on the observation power of the Sharingan. Is that so? I understand. After a pause, Garashi asked again, what is the principle of the 3 conditions of the ritual? Completing the ritual requires a lot of chakra. The only thing I can think of is to use the power of nature. Hirako explained, according to my observation, the solar eclipse seems to be the time when chakra is the most active in nature. As for Mount Sumru, it's also the place with the highest concentration of chakra I can find. Chakra is the most active? Garashi secretly thought, the moon is the product of the Rikudu Senin seal on Kagaya. Will the seal weaken during the solar eclipse? Hirako didn't know what Garashi was thinking, seeing that Garashi didn't speak, he continued, the 5 elements Kekkei Genkai are easy to deal with, but the Yin release Kekkei Genkai is the dojitsu, and the Yang release Kekkei Genkai is the physique. It's been a long time since the shinobi world has seen a physique Kekkei Genkai that represents the Yang release. You don't have to worry about this, I will temporarily seal you and release you when the time is right. Garashi said in a deep voice. I understand. With that said, Hirako took a deep look at Garashi, mastering the knowledge and mysteries beyond the shinobi world, and even taking people like me under your banner. What do you want to do? Garashi smiled slightly. Is this important? Hirako was stunned for a moment, but he immediately smiled. Indeed, it's not important, as long as I can continue my research, and let me see the complete form of the ghost germinal jutsu with my own eyes. What do you want to do with me? It's easy to deal with smart people. Garashi shrugged. However, there is one thing I want to remind you. In order to keep this secret, I will change your identity and part of your memory. From now on, you will appear in this world with a new identity. A new identity? Hirako said calmly, the name and appearance are nothing but a subsidiary product of oneself. As long as you follow your heart, it doesn't matter. Chapter 257. It has been 2 months since the operation to capture Hirako, and this operation didn't cause the slightest ripple. Most of the Woodleaf villagers didn't even know that such a rebellious Nin was captured and killed. After all, Hirako wasn't famous to begin with, and their operation was carried out in secret. After Sandame learned of the matter, he sighed and said, what a pity. Eastern Camp. 2 figures passed by each other, making the sound of kunai colliding. One of them stopped, and lightning burst out of his palm. Be careful, I'm going to use Chidori. Under the activation of lightning release chakra, Kakashi rushed towards the opponent as fast as lightning. Come on, I won't lose to a pirated Uchiha like you. On the other side, the 3 Tomo in his Sharingan rotated rapidly, and as if the time around him had slowed down, he dodged the lightning at the last moment. Kakashi stopped and shook his wrist. I'm not going to fight anymore, my chakra is almost used up. Shunyan complained helplessly, you are too shameless, I was just about to fight back. Having said that, he closed his Sharingan obediently. Seeing that the 2 had stopped fighting, the onlookers gathered around. Kakashi, you can't last too long. Guy patted Kakashi's shoulder with a concerned look on his face. Starting tomorrow, let's do handstand exercises together. I really should strengthen my training, but... Kakashi squinted his eyes. It's too embarrassing to train with you. Lose face. Guy took 2 steps back and looked at Kakashi excitedly. It's obviously a beautiful scenery. When I go out to train, even the enemy praises me as a weirdo. Black lines appeared on Kakashi's forehead. Are you sure this is a compliment? Asuma was amazed. The improvement of the 3 Tomo is so great. Even Kakashi's Chidori can be dodged. Shunyan touched his eyes with a sad look. If I could, would rather not have this improvement. Kakashi also had a sad look on his face. Yes. If I could, I would rather not complete the Chidori jutsu. The corner of Asuma's mouth twitched slightly. He hadn't even mentioned the bordered soil, so how did he get into trouble? Seeing Lin's unfriendly gaze, Asuma hurriedly changed the topic. Senior Shunyan, can the 3 Tomo Jade clearly see Garashi's movements? I can barely see Garashi's movements, but... Shunyan shook his head slightly. It's useless even if my body can't keep up. If it were Guy using his Sharingan, it would be better. Guy, who was nagging and harassing Kakashi, was startled and looked at Shunyan in shock. Shunyan-senpai, don't curse yourself. Shunyan's face darkened. He was just saying it casually, and you're still hung up on it? Just as he was about to use Genjutsu to talk to Guy, a Chunin ran over. Jonin Garashi, Orochimaru, Sama asked you to go to the conference room. There is an emergency. Emergency? What emergency can there be now? Guy looked puzzled. It can't be that the other villages have joined forces again, right? Garashi also had some doubts, but he didn't let the visitor wait for a long time. Sorry to trouble you, I'll go now. In the conference room. Among the 4 giants of the Eastern Front, Garashi was the last to arrive. Come on, something big really happened. Jiraiya waved with a gossipy face. Sorry, I'm late. Garashi stepped forward and sat down. What the hell is going on? Orochimaru clenched his hands. Simply put, Raikage died. Minato, who like Garashi hadn't eaten the melon, was shocked. How is that possible? With Raikage's strength, even if we join forces, it would be difficult to kill him, right? If Raikage wants to escape, of course, no one can kill him. Orochimaru shook his head and sighed. But what if he doesn't retreat? Fight to the death? Garashi pondered over the meaning of the words and asked tentatively. Did Rock Crypsis finally make a move? Orochimaru nodded. Inoki is really old. Either he doesn't make a move, or he goes straight for Yunan's vital point. Minato was puzzled. Yunan's vital point? Jiraiya laughed and explained, of course, it's the loot. Yunan's bandits have always been robbing things like mice in winter. I don't know how much they have secretly accumulated. This time, they were almost wiped out by Rock Crypsis. Mice in winter? Garashi couldn't help but smile. This metaphor was quite vivid. Did Raikage fight with Rock Crypsis for some loot? Minato still couldn't believe that Raikage, who had the strongest defense, was killed for such a reason. Jiraiya stroked his chin. Not all, in addition to the loot, he also had to cover the retreat of other Yunan's ninjas. After all, the enemy was an army of 10,000 people. Garashi was shocked. An army of 10,000 people? Orochimaru nodded. I have to say, that old guy is really powerful. He dragged out thousands of Rock Crypsis' ninjas before dying of exhaustion. Jiraiya sighed. This is also Inoki's mistake. If he was here, Raikage wouldn't have dared to fight with 10,000 people. In this regard, Raikage should thank Garashi. Orochimaru laughed. Without a leg, even Inoki's courage is a lot smaller. It's not so much that he's timid, but more cautious. Garashi sighed. After all, the younger generation of Rock Crypsis is lacking, and Kitsuchi's arm was broken by me. He has to hold on until someone can take over the Rock Crypsis. That's true. Jiraiya sighed. Speaking of which, the third Kazekage disappeared before the war began, the third Tsuchikage was crippled by Garashi, and the third Raikage died on the battlefield. Among the Kages of the villages, only the old man and the third Mizukage are still strong. Speaking of this, several people's expressions became strange. Compared with the other Kages, Naruto-sama is not only strong, but also relaxed. Realizing that he seemed to be insinuating something, Jiraiya laughed twice and returned to the topic. Today, I called you here mainly to raise your vigilance. Although Raikage's death has nothing to do with us, it's not surprising that Yunan will do something crazy. Who knows if they will go crazy and drag us down with them? Orochimaru said in a deep voice. Indeed, we should be careful. Yunan is a fierce wolf. The closer we are to the end, the more we have to be careful of their counterattack before they die. Minato naturally supported his teacher. I understand, I will strengthen the patrol. Garashi nodded solemnly. I will ask everyone to be more careful. You don't have to be so serious. Jiraiya laughed. Yunan was originally fighting with Kirin, and now they were attacked by Rock Crypsis. As long as their Yondaime-sama's head wasn't caught by a door, it's unlikely that they will come to trouble us. Chapter 258. At the same time, in Kirin's camp. All the Jonins were happy, and they were about to celebrate with drums and gongs. Haha. That bastard Raikage finally got what he deserved. He schemed against us, and now it's finally his turn to be schemed against. Rock Crypsis is not a good thing, the former Raikage died in their hands. The Mizukage was also in a good mood, and he almost couldn't hold back his crazy smile. Just as everyone was celebrating, a Jonin suddenly said, Mizukage-sama, what should we do next? Fight back against Yunan with Rock Crypsis. The Mizukage opened his eyes a little, what do you think? When it came to fighting back against Yunin, everyone suddenly discussed more. Of course, we have to fight back. Yunin is a despicable bastard, I don't like them. We have suffered heavy losses in this war, and we must get compensation from Yunin. Of course, some of these voices were against it. Yunin's people are crazy, our counterattack will only lead to their stronger revenge. It's no good, they can even sacrifice Reikage for some spoils of war, we can't take advantage of such a lunatic. Seeing someone say the point, the Mizukage nodded secretly. He really didn't want to be entangled with Yunin anymore, the problem is that he has to be able to take advantage of it. When they were almost done arguing, the Mizukage made a decision, let's stop here, there's no need to provoke Yunin's group of crazy dogs. Although many people were unhappy, no one dared to openly oppose the Mizukage's order in the Blood Mist village. Yes. The Mizukage slightly nodded, and then changed the topic, Yunin's matter is decided, now let's talk about how to get back the ninja sword from Woodleaf. Many people were silent, with Woodleaf's current momentum, it's not easy to get back the ninja sword from them. At this time, the most active Jonin suggested, Mizukage-sama, we might as well learn from Rock Crypsis in this regard. The Mizukage was a little interested. How? The Jonin who made the suggestion licked his lips. I heard that the Rock Crypsis had a tough attitude. They used their life and death attitude to win Woodleaf's peace talks. We can also learn to be tough and show that if they don't give us back our ninja swords, we will fight them to the death. The rest of the Jonins were shocked by his proposal. How can we fight Woodleaf with our current strength? Are you trying to kill us all? We're just pretending. The Jonin who made the suggestion waved his hand and said, we just want to let Woodleaf see our determination. The Mizukage was a little moved, the Jonin who made the proposal struck while the iron was hot, in fact, this is the same reason why we don't want to deal with Cloud Village. They are all lunatics. Normal people will always stay away from such lunatics, so this time we should learn from them and become lunatics. Become lunatics? The Mizukage was faintly excited. What are you going to do? Catch a Woodleaf ninja, seal the Sanbai in his body, seal this part of his memory, and then secretly put it back to Woodleaf. This is equivalent to placing a time bomb in Woodleaf that no one knows about. The Jonin who spoke had a flash of light in his eyes. Then we will threaten Woodleaf. If they don't return the ninja swords, we will detonate this bomb in their village. The Mizukage was still hesitant. It won't really detonate, right? How can it be? Kirin, who was already in the form of black, laughed. As long as they promise to return the ninja swords, we will send someone to pull the Sanbai out. A Jonin next to him asked weakly. But if we pull the Sanbai out, the Woodleaf ninja will also die, right? Black Zetsu controlled the Mist Jonin and said. As long as it's not a particularly important person, he's dead. Do you think Konoha will turn against us because of one person? That's true. Then it's decided. The Mizukage made a decision. Akashi, I will leave the specific matters of this task to you. Yes. One day later. The Mizukage was quite surprised to see Akashi and the unconscious girl beside him. You decided on a good candidate so soon? Akashi nodded. While Woodleaf's attention is focused on the war between Yunin and Rock Crypsis, we can seize the time to act. That's true. The Mizukage said. Did you bring the container to seal the Sanbai? A Jonin cautiously came forward with the jar. Mizukage-sama, please be careful. Well, you can put it down. The Jonin put the jar in front of the girl and quickly retreated to the distance. It's about to start. The Mizukage took a deep breath and opened the lid of the jar. Woo! At the moment when the Sanbai woke up, the Mizukage quickly sealed it in the girl. The Sanbai's strength was not weak, but after all, he just woke up and didn't understand the situation, so he was quickly sealed in the girl's body. This guy is really not honest. The Mizukage exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. Even for him, sealing the Sanbai was not easy. Perhaps because the Sanbai didn't want to be quiet, Rin frowned and woke up. Where am I? Where is Kakashi? For you, this may be hell. Hearing Akashi's threat, the surrounding Jonins laughed. The name of the village of the blood fog will scare people to tears. Such a cute little girl must be beautiful when she cries. Hearing these voices, Rin's memory before her coma gradually recovered. Yes, I was caught by Kiran's ninja, but why did they? Suddenly, a powerful chakra riot in her body. Ah! What is this? The Mizukage quickly printed and patted her on her body. The Sanbai is not honest again. The restlessness in her body gradually subsided, but Rin didn't notice it. She suddenly looked up and asked in amazement. Sanbai? The Mizukage laughed. Yes, you are now the Sanbai's Jinchuriki. Why do you want me to be? Being able to master such an A-class ninjutsu as a chunin, Rin was of course not stupid. She quickly thought of a possibility. You want to make the tailed beast in my body go berserk and hurt the people in the village? Although there was some misunderstanding, the Mizukage didn't intend to explain more to her. Anyway, this little girl's memory must be sealed. Akashi said, Mizukage-sama, why don't you go back and rest first? I will seal the memory and then transport you. Sealing the Sanbai was indeed a bit tiring, so the Mizukage didn't refuse. Then I will trouble you. Rin's face was pale, and she seemed to have made up her mind. While everyone's attention was on the Mizukage, she used the chakra scalpel to stab herself in the chest. However, when the knife reached 2 centimeters away from her chest, it couldn't go any further. How? Kashi laughed. Don't struggle, I have placed a curse seal on you so you can't hurt yourself. Rin bit her lower lip. She can't even kill herself? In order to prevent you from messing up the plan, I will temporarily forget this part of the memory. Seeing the Mizukage walking towards her step by step, Rin helplessly retreated. No, don't. Unfortunately, her struggle was in vain. Soon, Rin fell asleep with dull eyes. This should be enough, as long as you are a little emotional, you can break the seal. Akashi smiled. Next, I will arrange the scene of the reunion of the 3 people you want to see the most. Chapter 259. Outside the Woodleaf camp, Kakashi was pacing back and forth with a complicated expression. Damn it. What the hell should I do now? A small team that had just returned from patrolling the outside world passed by and greeted him with a smile. Kakashi, why are you hiding here and not going in? Isn't Rin with you? Huh, you aren't going to the front line again, are you? Kakashi looked down at the note in the palm of his hand as if he didn't hear her, and walked away without any response. Seeing this, a ninja in the team was dissatisfied. This guy is too arrogant, he doesn't even want to talk to us. The ninja next to him was also in a bad mood. Garashi-sama is much more talented than him, but I don't see him like this. The third ninja in the team was calm. Forgive him, since the death of bordered soil, he hasn't been right. However, the other 2 didn't buy it. How can there be no deaths in war? He's a genius, but his heart isn't that strong. The few of them grumbled as they walked into the camp. After walking a long distance away from the camp, Kakashi looked around and saw that there was no one around, and then he opened the note again. As a punishment for killing our compatriots, come to the quiet forest alone at noon today. If you dare to inform others, your little girlfriend will die. After reading this paragraph, Kakashi felt that his chest was about to explode with anger. Damn it, is it because I killed too many enemies in order to complete the agreed mission with the Uchiha clan, so I incurred this kind of revenge? But why is it Rin? Why didn't she directly attack me? Kakashi pulled his hair frantically, and his eyes were full of pain. No, I can't go and inform Senpai and Senpai. The enemy can secretly send the note to me. Maybe he is watching my every move from somewhere. If he finds out, Rin will die. I can't gamble with Rin's safety. But if I rush over like this, there is no point except to die, and the enemy will most likely not let Rin go. Damn it, what the hell should I do? Kakashi held his head with both hands. Calm down, there must be some way. Calm down, hurry up and get cold. Kakashi was forcing himself to calm down when he suddenly felt a chill in front of his chest. Right, the ice crystal pendant. Kakashi's eyes flashed with ecstasy. During the last operation to capture Hirako, he didn't use the pendant and had been carrying it with him all this time. After all, this was a life-saving opportunity, so he naturally wouldn't waste it. The ice crystal pendant hasn't been used yet, which means that the enemy doesn't know the effects of the pendant. As long as I break the pendant, Senior will definitely realize that something is wrong. The more Kakashi thought about it, the more he felt that it was feasible. But when he was about to act, he suddenly hesitated. No, I still can't. The ice crystal pendant can only let you know that something has happened here, but it can't tell you what it is. If you suddenly appear in front of me and I don't have time to explain the situation, the enemy might already know that I used some method to inform the reinforcements. Kakashi rested his chin on his right hand and thought to himself, I have to let Senpai understand the seriousness of the matter before he arrives. In other words, I have to break the pendant after arriving at the agreed place. In this way, when Senpai arrives, he will know that Rin has been kidnapped. However, this also means that I have to hold on until Senpai arrives. Thinking of this, Kakashi felt that his heart was heavy. This is a trap deliberately set by the enemy, which shows that he is in an absolute disadvantage. In this case, it won't be easy to hold on until Senpai arrives. But I can only fight. Kakashi touched his left eye and remembered Obito's last words, I'll leave Rin to you. His eyes gradually became firm. Whether it's for Rin or for Obito, I must not fail. At the same time, Kirin's team of 50 people was moving forward carefully. A Jonin looked at the unconscious Rin on the stretcher and asked with some doubts, Akane, didn't Mizukage-sama say that we should secretly send her back? Wouldn't it be too conspicuous if we go with so many people? Hearing him mention it, several Jonins next to him also questioned in a low voice. Yes, Woodleaf has a barrier. If we are discovered by Woodleaf, wouldn't it be over? Akane smiled calmly. In fact, Mizukage-sama made some slight changes to the plan, but because of the urgency of time, he didn't hold a second meeting. Huh? What changed? Woodleaf has a lot of strong people, even Naruto always stays in the village. It's not easy to secretly send someone back under their eyes, and it's difficult to explain why she suddenly appeared in Woodleaf. Therefore, after Mizukage-sama discovered the other identity of this little girl, he made some temporary changes to the plan. Everyone subconsciously looked at Rin. What identity? Is she Naruto's illegitimate daughter? Ahem, of course not. Akane's mouth twitched, these bastards have such a rich imagination. You should have heard of Hatake Kakashi, he killed a lot of Yunin and our ninjas on the battlefield, and this little girl is his teammate. Several Jonins nodded with righteous indignation. I heard that the bastard was forced by the Uchiha clan to prove his value, and he killed a lot of our people on the battlefield. Damn, he dared to use our people to gain war points. But what does this have to do with the Sanbai's plan? Akane calmly explained. Of course, it has something to do with it. Mizukage-sama used this little girl as an excuse to lure him out and seriously injure both of them. Then we pretended to be accidentally discovered by their reinforcements, leaving them behind in a hurry to escape. In this way, we have a reasonable explanation to let them go back to Woodleaf. Although they felt that it was a bit superfluous, everyone still praised him against their will. Mizukage-sama is really good, he thinks too far. Mizukage-sama is really reliable. Everyone, be serious, don't let that guy see through your flaws. Akane chuckled softly, it's not easy, just act as yourself and beat that Kakashi to death. Everyone couldn't help but laugh out loud, although they were a little unhappy that they couldn't really kill that guy, but beating that Kakashi until his mother can't recognize him, it can be regarded as revenge for their brothers. Seeing that they were all villains, Akane's mouth slightly raised, and subconsciously looked at Rin, who was still in a coma. Seeing Kakashi being tortured by them, the emotional fluctuations should be able to break through the incomplete seal I deliberately arranged. Everything here is ready, we just need to wait for the actors to appear one by one. Chapter 260. At the same time, the land of grass was on its way to the battlefield of Kirin. Kakashi, Rin, you must hold on. Bordered Soil was wearing a white Zetsu battle suit, whispering anxiously. White Zetsu, who had turned into an exoskeleton, smiled, that's not easy. Since he merged with part of your body, Kakashi can't last very long. Bordered Soil's body stagnated, and he almost fell from the trees. Bastard, don't say things that can easily be misunderstood. But as he said, his heart became more and more impatient. White Zetsu fanned the flames in his ear. I heard that Kakashi was going to give up on Rin last time. Guess, will he give up on Rin again this time, or even do something worse than this? No, absolutely not. Having said that, the uneasiness in Bordered Soil's heart became stronger. Especially the nightmare he had last time, the hellish scene lingered in his mind. Damn it. There's no time to think about it. Bordered Soil shook his head hard and accelerated forward. The silent forest. Where are you taking me? Rin's angry voice sounded in the forest. Oh, we're going to take you to the person you want to see the most. Akachi responded with a smile. The person I want to see the most? Rin's face was pale, and she quickly understood their purpose. You caught me to lure Kakashi out? Akachi gently clapped his hands. What a clever little girl. Lin bit her lower lip. Just give up. Kakashi won't come. Don't deny your value so easily. Akachi played with the kunai in his hand. Maybe there will be a surprise. The surprise you want is here. Accompanied by a calm and powerful voice, Kakashi's elongated figure came out of the forest. Kakashi, you. Rin didn't know how to describe her current emotions. She was moved, but also annoyed. Akashi smiled and said, sure enough, Konoha's ninjas are very courageous. Kakashi didn't care about his teasing, and asked in a deep voice, I came as promised, can you let Rin go? Let her go? Chi shrugged. The creed only says that we will kill her if you don't come, but it doesn't seem to say that we will let her go if you come. The rest of the Kirin ninjas also laughed loudly. Haha. What an idiotic and childish brat. What do you take us for? The Blood Mist Village's ninjas never leave anyone alive. Despair, rage, and wail in the fear of death. Damn it, these bastards. Rin clenched her fists in pain and shouted at Kakashi, don't worry about me, run. I've already tasted the pain of losing a friend, so I definitely don't want to experience it again. Kakashi took out a shuriken from the tool bag on his waist and said firmly, Lin, wait for me. Tears welled up in Lin's eyes and the tip of her nose tingled. Why did you do that? Or, this is. Before he could finish his words, Akashi saw Kakashi throwing a shuriken at him at a very fast speed. Oh, childish temper. As he spoke, he placed his kunai in front of his chest. Ding! A shuriken bounced off the kunai and fell to the ground. But before he could be happy, the sound of blocking and screams from all directions made his face change. In the next moment, dozens of Kakashi swarmed out of the forest. Obviously, chakra is not enough, but he still dares to use shadow clone jutsu. Should I say that he is confident or arrogant? Akashi whispered, and his face changed again. In his line of sight, every shadow clone used Chidori, and the speed of those shadow clones was so fast that they didn't look like ninjas. Damn it, how did this bastard do it? In an instant, more than a dozen Kirin ninjas were cut off by his Chidori, and flesh and blood flew everywhere, rendering the originally silent forest like a slaughterhouse. Fortunately, the ninjas who participated in this operation were at least Chunin, and even half of them were Jonin, and even under this level of surprise attack, they still preserved nearly 3/5 of their strength. However, these Jonin were also frightened by Kakashi's attack, and they all looked at the white-haired boy with horror. This strength, is he really a 12-year-old kid? Damn it. Could it be that he's another genius like Qingshui Stone? Why do geniuses always come from wood leaf? Fate favors them too much. Akashi squinted his eyes and looked at the panting Kakashi, so it turns out that opening the Hashiman Tonku squeezes out the chakra in the body? After all, I'm not a genius like Senpai, opening the second gate in my spare time is the limit. Kakashi resisted the tiredness of his body, and his heart was extremely bitter. Kirin thinks too highly of me, they actually sent so many strong people at once. Don't be afraid, this bastard only has one round of outbreak. Akashi said with a grin, now, it's our turn to fight back. Hearing Akashi's explanation, the remaining Kirin ninjas looked ferocious. New hatred and old hatred, how can they not vent it? Go! Lin stood up, but before she could take 2 steps, her legs went soft and she fell to the ground, and black curse lines appeared on her body. How can we let you leave? A Kirin ninja rushed up with a kunai. Kakashi resisted the attack with his sore body, but then another Kirin ninja seized the opportunity and sent him flying. I have to be patient, it's not time yet. Kakashi stood up unsteadily, and before he could react, he was hit in the chest by a knee. Kakashi curled up his body and fell down like a roasted prawn. The surrounding Kirin ninjas looked at this scene with joy. Haha! Aren't you a genius? Why did you fall down? Don't you want to save people? Get up quickly. Although we sacrificed a lot of our companions, it was worth it to kill a genius like you in advance. Watching Kakashi being kicked around on the ground by the enemy, Lin felt like her heart was being cut by a knife, and waves of pain and regret surged in her heart. Why did it have to be like this? When the emotional fluctuations reached a threshold, a gate in her body seemed to be opened. Ah! Lin held her head and screamed in pain, the seal of her memory and body was broken. Hearing this incomparably miserable scream, the Kirin ninjas were shocked and subconsciously looked in the direction of Lin. Damn it, Lin drew their attention back again. Although he was annoyed, Kakashi was also worried about Lin's body, and decisively shouted. Parker, do it. Boom! A piece of the ground near Lin was overturned. 8 ninja dogs rushed out, and while the 2 Kirin ninjas guarding Lin were not paying attention, they snatched Lin away. Chapter 261. Seeing the hostages being taken away by the ninja dogs, everyone was shocked. What? This guy still has a backup plan? While they were in a daze, Kakashi, who didn't resist no matter how they beat him, quickly made a hand seal. Earth escape barrier, Earth prison none. A huge hemispherical Earth prison rose from the ground, trapping all the people who bullied him inside. Then, without any hesitation, he ran to Rin's side and jumped on the largest dog, Blue. Blue, let's go. Rin was also put on another large dog, and the 2 ran on the ground like dog riders. Blue reminded while running, Kakashi, you forgot to carve the powerful, loyal, and handsome dog head. Kakashi's breath stagnated, and he smiled apologetically, sorry, I don't have enough chakra, next time, next time. Rin barely woke up from her headache, and said in a hurried voice, Kakashi, this is Kirin's conspiracy. Kakashi only thought that Rin was talking about the trap itself, and said with a smile, I know, but we have escaped. No, it's not like that. Rin was about to continue, but suddenly there was an explosion behind them. Kakashi turned around and saw a group of Kirin ninjas all broke out of the seal. Damn, how can they be so fast? Kakashi's heart was in a mess for a while, all my chakra only bought me less than 10 seconds. At this time, Rin said with a complicated expression, Kakashi, you should give up on me, I have no hope. Kakashi restrained his anxious expression and comforted her, don't worry, although it didn't buy much time, they only have 2 legs, they can't outrun Blue. Blue barked, even if you praise me, it doesn't change the fact that I'm a combat dog, my explosive power is good, but my endurance is far from enough. Kakashi said anxiously, hold on. If we can go back alive, I will ask Jiraiya-sama to write a book for you. Write a book? Brew perked up, but then he said suspiciously, although this is a good publicity method, I heard that Jiraiya's popularity is very low, and the content is not very healthy. What if people misunderstand that we are not decent dogs? Kakashi tried to defend himself. Who would read a book with healthy content? Believe me, you will become celebrity dogs. Is that so? Brew's face was filled with confusion. Kakashi, don't make things difficult for it. Lin shook her head and said in a low voice, I just broke the seal and finally remembered what they did to me. Seal? Kakashi's expression was solemn. They sealed your memories before? Well, because. Lin gently pressed her chest. I am now a three-tailed Jinchuriki. Sanbai Jinchuriki? Why would they? Kakashi's pupils suddenly shrank, and he asked incredulously, are they going to let you go on a rampage in the village? Yes. Lin nodded sadly. Now you should know why I said there was no hope for me. When they sealed the three-tailed Jinchuriki in my body, they already left a way to retrieve the tailed beast. Even if I escape this time, I will die because of the tailed beast. Instead of letting them continue to use the power of the tailed beast to threaten the safety of the village, it is better to kill me now. At least during the time when the tailed beast is resurrected, they will lose a powerful weapon. Kakashi couldn't believe it, and he didn't want to believe it. No, there must be a way. By the way, I have already informed Senpai. Senpai can save you. Hearing Kakashi mention Senpai, Lin's eyes first lit up, and then dimmed. It's too late, look behind you. Kakashi turned his head and found that the distance between them and the enemy had been shortened a lot. Damn, how can they be so fast? Bru's slightly apologetic voice sounded. Sorry, they have been throwing kunai and shurikens from behind, and our speed has been greatly affected. Do you see? Maybe in a minute, or even less than a minute, they will catch up, and then my memory will be sealed again, and then I will become a weapon in their hands to destroy the village. Lin roared in pain. Kakashi, do you want me to die without being able to forgive myself? Kakashi clenched his fists silently, and his fingertips almost pierced the flesh of his palms. It's too late, kill me. Lin looked at Kakashi with hopeful eyes. They set a curse on me that can't hurt me, only you can stop me. Kakashi slowly raised his right hand. At this moment, he only felt that his arm was filled with lead, too heavy to lift. Hurry up. Lin urged loudly. At the same time, on the other side of the forest. Hurry up. White Zetsu also urged loudly. I want to be faster, but my body can't do it at all. Bordered Soil roared angrily. Let me control it, after all, you are using my body now. Bordered Soil was stunned and then moved. You are so kind, not only against Madara's order to take me out, but now you are so nervous about my affairs. White Zetsu laughed twice. I always like to help others. After White Zetsu took control, Bordered Soil's speed was much faster. Before long, Bordered Soil heard the sound of the ground shaking in front of him. There are a lot of people, it must be in front of us. Bordered Soil whispered excitedly, through the forest, and then saw a scene that made his blood freeze. Kakashi's right hand passed through Lin's chest, and the bright red blood looked unusually dazzling. It's fake, it must be fake. Bordered Soil muttered to himself, and the Magatama in his right eye rotated rapidly. I'm sorry, Lin, I'm really sorry. Kakashi whispered, not aware that the Magatama in his left eye was rotating rapidly. At this time, Kakashi suddenly felt a chill from his arm. Looking up, he saw that the blow that had pierced through his chest had broken a certain pendant. By the way, Lin also has an ice crystal pendant. Kakashi was ecstatic, but the joy in his eyes quickly dissipated. Senpai said that this pendant can only make people fake death, but Lin is really dead, so what's the point of this fake death? The ups and downs between heaven and hell made the chakra in his brain surge wildly. The next moment, the Magatama in his left eye turned into a pinwheel. However, his body was in a state of limit, and under such continuous stimulation, he fainted directly. Hey, Kakashi, you. After Kakashi lost consciousness, Blue and the other 8 ninja dogs turned into smoke and returned to the different space. Then, Kakashi and Lin's bodies fell to the ground. Chapter 262. This sudden change made the Kirin ninjas behind them dumbfounded. We didn't want to kill you. Why did you do it yourself? After the shock, it was followed by madness and irritation. If the Jinchuriki is dead, the Sanbai will also die, right? Bastard. It will take many years for the tailed beast to be resurrected. Damn it. Not only did we fail to complete the task, but we also killed the Sanbai. Akashi, what should we do now? Akashi didn't pay attention to them, but he stared at the bordered soil who suddenly appeared on the side of the forest. Looking at the big windmill in Obito's eyes, his heart was in turmoil, and he almost cried out in horror. In just 2 months, he actually completed the transformation from eyeless to two-tomo Sharingan, and from two-tomo Sharingan to Mangekyo. What kind of monster is this kid? If he didn't know that Madara was not dead, he would think that the reincarnation of Indra's chakra was the bordered soil. Seeing Akashi was silent, a group of Kirin ninjas followed his gaze, and then found a strange man wearing a one-eyed mask and a black robe. Who's there? No matter who it is, go to hell. They were full of grievances and had nowhere to vent, so when they saw Obito, they decided to vent their grievances on him. Several Kirin ninjas took out shurikens and shot at the bordered soil from a tricky angle. However, the bordered soil stood in the same place and muttered to himself. Fake, it must be fake. Whoosh. A few shurikens passed through his body as if they were hitting air. Seeing this, the Kirin ninjas were shocked. Is it an afterimage? No, he didn't move at all. Damn, who is this bastard? They were surprised, and the bordered soil, who had been standing in the same place, suddenly raised his head. I don't admit it, I will never admit the world without Rin. After that, he seemed to awaken. From a shoddy chunin, he was directly strengthened to the point where he could kill any jonin. The dark Obito rushed into the crowd as if he had entered a no-man's land. No one was his opponent. Seeing the bordered soil killing in the crowd, these Kirin ninjas were going crazy. They were just venting their anger. How could a monster appear? They couldn't attack each other, but the other party could attack them wantonly. This unreasonable attack made them not even know how to resist. Very good. That's it. Black Zetsu, who let Akachi, accidentally, be killed by Obito and then faked his death to escape, hid in the ground and looked at the scene in front of him excitedly. Cut off your fetters completely and completely transform into Madara's will. But when he was secretly fanning the flames, he suddenly perceived someone's chakra, which made him panic. Why is this bastard here? Did Kakashi secretly inform him? But I didn't notice. Forget it, it's too late to think about this, I must let the bordered soil leave quickly. Although the bordered soil was strengthened many times after the dark transformation, and even awakened the ability of the Mangekyo, but against a real monster named Shimizu Garashi, the possibility of bordered soil winning is less than 1%. After all, that's a character that even he is afraid of. Thinking of this, he quickly controlled the bordered soil to remind him. Bordered soil, there is a very powerful chakra approaching. We must leave here quickly. However, Obito, who has completely turned black, didn't pay attention to him at all and only cared about killing the mist ninjas. Black Zetsu was speechless for a while. The dark transformation is really troublesome. The bordered soil who used to be obedient suddenly became stubborn. However, it wasn't as if he didn't have a solution. As the dark mentor who led Madara step by step to the abyss, he knows the personality of these Uchiha too well. To deal with them, coercion is useless. You have to see their hearts and then guide them slowly. The person who came seems to be the woodleaf Shimizu Garashi. If you are discovered by him, you may not be able to leave. Don't you think all this is fake? Inherit the will of Madara, and you can create a real world by yourself. Hearing the name of Shimizu Garashi, the bordered soil's indifferent eyes restored a trace of clarity and expectation. If it's senpai, is it possible to save Rin? Seeing that the bordered soil seemed to have signs of deviation, Black Zetsu hurriedly said. Do you think it's possible? He's just a medical ninja, not a god. The bordered soil hesitated for a moment, and finally looked at the dead Rin, and then disappeared with the distortion of space. He's gone. Ah. What the hell is this demon doing? The surviving mist ninjas felt like they had just experienced a nightmare. They failed the mission, lost their tailed beasts, and now they were inexplicably killed until there were only a few of them left. Their nose was sour, and they almost burst into tears. After calming down, they looked at Kakashi and Rin lying on the ground with ferocious expressions. Damn, it's all your fault, you bastard. Don't think you'll be fine if you faint. I'll let you experience the pain we experienced. They walked toward Kakashi with a grin, but before they took a few steps, they found a figure suddenly appeared beside Kakashi. Looking at the back of the person who came, they took out their kunai vigilantly. This clothes, he's a woodleaf ninja. Humph. Just let me vent. Wait, why does this guy's back look a bit familiar? One of the Kirin ninja screamed, and his body trembled like a sieve. He's Shimizu Garashi. Are you kidding me? It wasn't easy for us to survive from that monster. Run separately, let's escape as many as we can. Garashi calmly made hand seals, created a few shadow clones, and no longer paid attention to them. He's gone. Garashi looked around a little, and when he didn't sense the bordered soil's chakra, he nodded slightly. I didn't deliberately leak my aura in vain. After confirming that there was no little tail around, Garashi calmly walked to Rin's side and squatted down to check her vital signs. Fortunately, it's not too late. Although his ice release can't replace death, it can delay Rin's death and let her hold on until his arrival. Garashi pressed on Rin's chest without changing his expression, and while stopping her bleeding, he secretly muttered to himself. I'll use the research results I got from the Hachibi clone on you for the first time. Tailed beasts and Jinchuriki are two existences. If the tailed beast is pulled out, the Jinchuriki will die, and if the Jinchuriki dies, the tailed beast will also die. But the difference is that the tailed beast can be randomly respawned in the wild after death. So, here's the problem. What if part of the tailed beast is forced to stay in the body of the Jinchuriki? Is it possible to use the rebirth characteristics of the tailed beast to keep the Jinchuriki alive? Based on Shushi's research, this was indeed possible, but two conditions had to be met first. First, to keep the dead body of the Jinchuriki from decaying. Second, to ensure the activity of the chakra left in the body of the Jinchuriki. The first point is easy to do, and his ice release can do it. The real trouble is the second point, to keep the chakra activity of the tailed beast after the death of the tailed beast. Then, Garashi thought of the Hachibi. In the original work, the Hachibi was pulled out by Madara and left an octopus foot in the body of Killer Bee to keep him alive. You know, after becoming a part of the Jubi, the Hachibi is actually dead. In this case, the octopus foot can keep Killer Bee alive, which naturally explains the problem. After Garashi's research, he also mastered this ability. Under his strong intervention, a part of the dissipating chakra was intercepted by him in Rin's body. Phew, it's barely stable. After all this, Garashi exhaled a mouthful of foul air, and then methodically took out a scroll. As a reward for saving you, I'll accept the Sanbai's chakra. Chapter 263. When Kakashi woke up, it was already 3 days later. Where is this? Kakashi held his swollen head, opened his eyes in a daze, looked at the pure white ceiling and muttered to himself. This is Woodleaf Hospital. The nurse next to him laughed. You've been on the battlefield for so long that you even forgot what the village looks like? Oh, it's Woodleaf Hospital. Wait, Woodleaf Hospital? Kakashi repeated, as if a bolt of lightning flashed through his mind, excitedly sat up from the bed. Where's Lin? How's Lin? Lin? You mean the little girl with you? The nurse was startled, shook her head and sighed, I'm sorry. Although she didn't say it clearly, her attitude had already explained everything. Kakashi seemed to have lost his soul, leaned against the bed and softly slid down. There are a lot of people who care about you, they'll be very happy to know that you're awake. How about I go inform them now? Kakashi didn't say anything, just looked at the ceiling in a daze. Sigh. The nurse shook her head, and didn't say anything. She had seen this kind of thing many times, and knew that persuasion was useless. The only thing that can heal this kind of pain is time. After an unknown amount of time, a familiar voice came from outside the door. Kakashi, can we come in? However, there was no response from the room. Did he fall asleep? The nurse reminded, you can go in directly. Looking at his previous state, I was worried that he would harm himself. Harm himself? The few of them quickly pushed the door and came in, then saw Kakashi lying on the bed like a zombie. Kakashi, are you all right? Asuma asked, choosing his words carefully. We already know what happened, it's not your fault. Red comforted. Yes, you've done well enough. Shizue also said. Everyone says that you and Lin are the heroes who protected the village. Guy cheered. As if the keyword was triggered, Kakashi said in a hoarse voice, hero? How can a trash like me be called a hero? What about Lin? Are you going to deny her sacrifice? Shuei-mu asked coldly. Kakashi shook his head. Of course Lin is a hero. We found a curse on Lin's body. She couldn't hurt herself, so she chose to die in your hands. Shuei-mu said coldly, at least, your hand chop was valuable. It's all thanks to you that she became a hero. Kakashi became agitated. What did you say? Shuei-mu curled his lips. What? You're not going to play dead anymore? The corners of Kakashi's eyes twitched, and he had an inexplicable impulse to hit someone. However, in his current state, he would most likely be the one being beaten. Everyone had strange expressions on their faces. Sure enough, Shuei-mu was more effective in dealing with Kakashi. Kakashi said dejectedly. Obito died to protect me, and Rin gave me the chance to escape. She took the initiative to die in my hands. I am a person who will only bring misfortune and misfortune. So, are you going to commit suicide? Shuei-mu asked coldly. Are you going to waste the lives that they exchanged with their lives? Kakashi was speechless for a moment. Yes, in a sense, his life was no longer his own. If he continued to sink, he would be blaspheming the bordered soil and Lin's sacrifice. But the question was, what should he do? Seeing that Kakashi's mood seemed to have changed a little, everyone couldn't help but understand. So, to treat Kakashi, they had to use this kind of collapse therapy? I don't know. Kakashi touched his left eye and said in disappointment. Bordered soil left this eye to me, hoping that I could protect Lin. But in order to keep this eye, I let Lin suffer misfortune instead of me. What should a person like me do? At this time, Garashi's voice suddenly came from outside the door. The reason why you're in pain and confusion is that you're too weak. Garashi. Senpai. Garashi shook his head slightly. You guys go out first. Let me have a few words with him alone. Naturally, no one objected. They left Kakashi with an encouraging look and turned to leave. When only the two of them were left in the room, Garashi said, Are you confused that I would say such cold words to you? Kakashi said dejectedly. No, it's because I'm too weak that bordered soil and Lin died for me. If I were stronger, these things might not have happened at all. Yes. All the pain of a person is essentially anger at their own incompetence. Garashi sighed. If you don't want pain to come again, keep moving toward the word strongest. Yes. I'm just angry at my own incompetence. Kakashi's eyes were confused. If I could have Senpai's strength, no matter how many traps and conspiracies, they would be nothing. He knew that Kirin, Yunin, and Rock Crypsis had planned more than one trap against Senpai, but what was the result? In the end, the three families often suffered losses, and Senpai even became stronger. It was the same experience, but the results were completely different. The reason for this was that Senpai's strength was strong enough, so strong that he could destroy all the conspiracies. Thinking of this, the confusion in Kakashi's eyes gradually dissipated. Senpai, I understand. I will make myself strong enough. I will never experience this kind of pain again. Good momentum. Garashi smiled slightly. As a reward, come to my house late tonight. A few question marks appeared on Kakashi's head. He was not red or mute. What kind of reward was this to him? But then, his expression changed, and he asked in a trembling voice in disbelief, could it be that Lin? Kakashi did not dare to ask any more, and he did not even dare to look Garashi in the eyes. Garashi pondered. How should I say this? This matter is a bit complicated, and it may not be as you think. In short, if you want to know all this, then come. Remember, don't let anyone else know. Although he did not get a definite answer, the fact that Senpai did not deny it made him ecstatic. Kakashi nodded like a chick pecking at rice. I know, I will not tell anyone. Also, don't look so excited. Seeing that Senpai was so serious, Kakashi did not dare to underestimate him. He quickly pressed his cheeks with both hands, forcibly stopping his smile, and changed into a pouting look. Oh my god. Don't overdo it. Garashi pressed between his eyebrows helplessly, shook his head, and walked out of the door. In short, you should pay more attention to yourself. Kakashi nodded vigorously. I will definitely calm down, calm down, calm down. Ha ha ha. No, I can't do this. Kakashi decisively lifted the sheets and hid under the quilt, twisting around like a maggot. Chapter 264. It's so slow, so slow. After the excitement, Kakashi seemed to have entered the state of a sage, looking numbly at the clock on the wall. He had never looked forward to the arrival of midnight as much as he did today. The slow passage of time seemed to him as long as a century. Finally, the clock of 12:00 gently sounded. Kakashi jumped up from the hospital bed like a carp and covered his chest. Ahem, that was fierce. Fortunately, no one saw his shameful scene. Kakashi didn't care. After creating a shadow clone to replace him in the hospital bed, he used earth release, earth diving technique to sneak from the ground. It didn't take long for him to come to a mansion in the center of the village. Unless they were like a big fat sheep who frequented casinos, a top medical ninja generally wouldn't be short of money. Not to mention, Masashi was the inventor of the medical scroll, and he had already made a lot of money in the war. The once dilapidated wooden house outside Konoha's fifth ring has also been replaced with the current central mansion. Of course, Kakashi's attention was completely not on the mansion in front of him. Sneak in directly? Isn't that impolite? But Senpai also told me to pay attention to the concealment, and I can't hide from Senpai. Thinking of this, Kakashi no longer hesitated, his head shrank and sneaked into the ground again. As soon as he sneaked into the courtyard in the center of the mansion, he heard Senpai's voice from above. Come out. Kakashi's heart relaxed, he released the ninjutsu and jumped out of the ground. Senpai, the reward is, don't worry, come with me first. Kakashi excitedly followed behind Shutoshi and arrived in front of a room. Shushi pushed the door open, and Kakashi followed him in. But after a few glances, he found something wrong. Wait, this decoration looks like a bedroom, doesn't it? Kakashi's forehead couldn't help sweating, and he nervously covered his buttocks. Did I guess wrong? Is it really the reward I understood at the beginning? While Kakashi's imagination was running wild, Shushi formed a seal with his hands. Open. This is a barrier? Kakashi was surprised in his heart. Only now did he sense that there seemed to be a layer of concealment enchantment placed in the room. Then, Garashi pressed on the wall. There was a slight sound of machinery turning from underground. The next moment, the floor opened up, and a flight of stairs leading underground appeared in front of the two of them. This is? Kakashi was surprised and relieved at the same time. Fortunately, the plot didn't develop in the direction he wanted it to. This is where I used to do my experiments, so I arranged it to be slightly hidden. Garashi looked back and explained. He then looked at Kakashi with a strange look and asked, What happened to you? Kakashi hurriedly removed his right hand from his hip and smiled awkwardly. Oh, by the way, I've been lying in bed for too long today. This place is a little numb. Oh, is that so? Garashi did not mind and led the way underground. Kakashi followed closely behind Garashi. As soon as he entered the underground, a gust of cold air hit him in the face, causing him to subconsciously shiver. However, he was not in the mood to care about the cold air. As he walked underground, all his attention was firmly occupied by the ice coffin in the center of the underground space. A little girl was lying in the ice coffin. Her face was peaceful, as if she was sleeping. "It's Lin." Kakashi ran forward excitedly and touched the ice coffin. Even if his palm was frostbitten, he did not feel it. After looking for a while, Kakashi reluctantly turned back and asked, "Senpai, what's going on? How should I explain it?" Garashi gently rubbed his forehead. "Briefly explain her situation. Lin is now in a vegetative state." Vegetative state? Kakashi did not have a hard time understanding this term, but he still could not believe it. "I clearly killed Lin at that time. Even the tailed beast chakra in Lin's body was dispersing." Garashi smiled. "So? Does this mean she's dead?" Kakashi's brain was a little confused. He shook his head at a loss. "I don't know. For an ordinary medical ninja, such a situation is of course fatal." Garashi smiled. "But for me, this situation is not the worst. No matter what, my job is a medical ninja. If I can't even save someone from the Grim Reaper, what kind of medical ninja can I be?" Kakashi was shocked. "Save someone from the Grim Reaper? That's amazing, as expected of senpai." Shushi, on the other hand, smiled faintly. He had not only snatched someone from the god of death, but he had also snatched the god of death himself. After the shock, Kakashi asked again. "Senpai, when will Lin wake up?" Garashi rubbed his chin and said with uncertainty. 3 years? 5 years? The key is when the Sanbai will be resurrected." "Ah. Why is it related to the Sanbai?" Kakashi wondered. "Let's put it this way. First, I used the symbiotic characteristics of the Bijou and the Jinchuriki to forcibly intercept a part of the Sanbai's chakra in Lin's body, and then I used the research results I obtained from the Hachibi's clone on Lin to ensure that the activity of that part of the chakra is not dead." After a pause, Garashi went on to explain. "In this way, as long as the Sanbai is resurrected, we can capture the Sanbai and seal it into Lin's body, making Lin a real complete Jinchuriki, and with this, she can be truly resurrected." Kakashi nodded thoughtfully. "Although I don't understand it at all, it's very powerful anyway. However, it's precisely because of this." Garashi warned seriously. "You have to pretend that you don't know that Lin is still alive." "Ah. Why?" Kakashi said and suddenly realized. "I know, is it because of Kirin?" Kirin regards the Sanbai as her exclusive property. If she knows that we are also waiting for the Sanbai's resurrection, it will definitely add a lot of twists and turns to capture the Sanbai. Moreover, they might even try to assassinate Lin. Shushi analyzed the situation methodically. "After all, we can't guard Lin all the time. The best way to protect her is to pretend that you don't know about it at all. Even if it's for Lin, you have to pretend that you are in pain and strong." Finally, Kakashi looked at Lin, who seemed to be sleeping quietly, and resolutely said, I will be strong." "Very good, that's the kind of determination you need." Garashi nodded with satisfaction and immediately changed the topic. "In order to let Kirin see your pain, and also to take revenge on them, I have a bolder idea." Kakashi wondered. "What idea?" Garashi softly spat out a few words. "Kill the Mizukage." Chapter 265. Besieging the Mizukage. The next day, Shushi's team exclaimed in surprise. Among these voices, there was surprise, excitement, but there was no fear. Even if the enemy is the Kage of one of the 5 great ninja villages, who really stands at the top of the ninja world and can decide the fate of a small country with a single word, as long as it's Garashi's decision, they will never have any doubts. Not only that, but at their age, they lack respect for the so-called big people. As geniuses, they think highly of themselves. Even the Kage of one of the villages, in their view, only took advantage of his age. The only person who can make them respect and worship is Garashi. Garashi narrowed his eyes, his fingers gently tapped on the table. Killing and sacrificing in the war is a very normal thing, and I don't want to continue the hatred outside the battlefield, but Kirin went too far this time. She was crazy enough to let Rin become a tailed beast weapon. If it wasn't for Rin's self-sacrifice, the village may have suffered a huge loss this time. Everyone nodded with righteous indignation. They didn't have so many thoughts about what was right or wrong. They simply felt that since they dared to lay their hands on their friends, they should be punished. After all, the kind and lovely Rin is much more likable than the smelly Kakashi and the stupid bordered soil. Yes. We must not let Rin's sacrifice be in vain. We must let Kirin understand the price of hurting our people. Isn't it just the Mizukage? There is nothing to be afraid of. Kakashi was moved, but more than that, he was shocked. Just because of Senpai's words, they didn't even fear to attack the Mizukage. What kind of worship and trust is this? This kind of cohesion can make any team envy. However, I can also do it. Kakashi said in his heart, his worship and trust for Senpai is absolutely not inferior to them. Even if Senpai wants to take Naruto's position by force, he will not hesitate to follow Senpai. Garashi nodded with relief and continued, about this operation, I have asked Naruto-sama for instructions. His answer is that the village will not give any support, but will not stop our actions. In other words, you have to take care of yourself. Everyone was secretly surprised. With Lord Naruto's personality, he was able to negotiate with the Rock Crypsis even after destroying their village. Other than his anger towards Kirin, the reason why he agreed to this operation was most likely because of their senior's attitude. Since no one has any objections, let's make a battle plan. Garashi pondered for a moment and said, first of all, we have to find a way to lure the Mizukage out and let him stay in Kirin's army. It's impossible for us to defeat him. Should we lure him out? Guy pondered. Should we spread the news that Senpai has been resurrected? Three Tails has only been dead for a few days and it's already resurrected? Asuma glanced at him. Can you be a little more professional when it comes to spreading rumors? Guy was unconvinced. Then why don't you make one? Sure. Asuma thought for a moment, then clapped his hands and said, I got it. Let's say that Kakashi was dissatisfied with the village's indifference, so he stole the scroll of seals and defected. Let's see if we can fish out the Mizukage. Kakashi was speechless. Why are you talking about me? And yours is obviously even more unreliable. What can we do? Asuma said helplessly, the Mizukage is very cautious, and ordinary temptations won't be attractive to him at all. Everyone's face was tangled. The Mizukage was not a reckless person like the Reikage. Since there's no way to lure him out, then think about it in another direction, such as diverting Kirin's army. Garashi pondered and said, at that time, I will use Genjutsu to control a few Kirin ninjas to have a conflict with Yunin, and then make things big, so that Kirin will mobilize the army. Kakashi asked, but what if they only send a part of their forces? Garashi said, then wait for Kirin to send a part of their forces, and then ask Jiraiya-sama to lead the army to circle the border a few times, and let Kirin send the rest of their forces to defend. The threat of 2 villages should be enough to empty their main camp. Mizuki was the first to agree, I think it's okay. Shizen and Kurenai secretly gritted their teeth, why are you talking so fast? Well, I also agree. When everyone agreed, Garashi nodded slightly, then the second question is how to defeat or even kill the Mizukage. The Mizukage has always been cautious, even on the battlefield, he will let his personal guards protect him. Those personal guards are only at the level of a normal jonin, but they are good at joint attacks, and together they can exert a considerable strength. Moreover, when the villages choose the shadow guards, they will generally consider the cooperation with the Kage. After all, even the Kage can't do everything, so the existence of the shadow guards is particularly important. Kakashi pondered, so, our task is to stop the Mizukage's personal guards? Not only that. Garashi looked dignified and shook his head, although I am confident in dealing with the Mizukage, if he wants to escape, it will be difficult for me to stop him, so I need you to divide a few people, or even more people, to take turns to arrange the barrier. Everyone looked serious, although they have grown a lot, the enemy is not comparable to the 7 legendary swordsmen. If the Mizukage wants to escape, a single barrier can't hold him for too long. In other words, they must be prepared to use the barrier in rotation. In addition to the personal guards, we also need to consider the situation of Kirin's reinforcements. Garashi said, "Of course, our operation time shouldn't be too long. Kirin's main force should be difficult to come back, but even if it's only one of them, it's enough to raise our vigilance." "Can Kirin come up with any powerful combat power now?" Asma muttered, "The Sanbai is dead, and the Rokubi's Jinchuriki shouldn't have recovered yet. They can only come up with the 7 legendary swordsmen, the 2 legendary swordsmen, right? Well, if we really meet the 2 of them, it's time for revenge." Kurenai said while rubbing her small hands. Guy nodded excitedly, "Yes. Now we are completely different from the last time. Don't underestimate Kirin. With the strong vitality of the Bijou, even if the Rokubi's Jinchuriki is not healed, he can still exert a lot of strength." Garashi reminded, in addition to the Jinchuriki, Kirin's water mirror Yagura is also not to be underestimated. Yagura, the monster that can use the water mirror jutsu to summon a mirror image of the same strength as the enemy? Shizun exclaimed. "Is this jutsu really so powerful?" Asma expressed doubts. "If he copies Garashi, then what are we going to do?" "Then let's kill the Mizukage before their reinforcements arrive." Mizuki said coldly, "It just so happens that my ability hasn't been exposed yet. I will pretend to make a mistake and lure the Mizukage to break the barrier from my side." Underworld release? Inazuka Arashi's eyes lit up. "Without knowing the information, even the Mizukage may fall in your hands. Won't it be too dangerous? After all, the enemy is the Kage." Hyuga Mori asked hesitantly. "There's nothing to worry about. No matter how strong he is, he can't escape from the essence of chakra," Mizuki said calmly. "And me, my ability should be able to help." Kakashi gently touched his left eye. Guy wondered, what's the use of the Sharingan? "Are you going to use Genjutsu to control the Mizukage?" Kakashi closed his left eye, and when he opened it again, the Magatama had turned into a pinwheel shape. "This is the last gift Rin gave me, the miracle light that allowed the Sharingan to evolve." Chapter 266. Kirin Camp, Conference Room. A group of Jonin sat upright. They didn't even dare to breathe. Since the incident a few days ago, the Mizukage-sama's mood has been very bad. A large team of elite ninjas, plus the Sanbai, such a loss made the already poor Kirigakure even worse. What annoyed them the most was that it wasn't a wrong decision, but they didn't know what went wrong. If it wasn't for the fact that all the people who went out were killed, they would have thought that there was a spy mixed in with the team. In short, they were very unhappy. The Mizukage asked coldly, "Did you investigate the conflict on the border of Yunnan?" A Jonin quickly replied, "It has been found that Yunnan deliberately provoked them, but they accused us of starting it first. This group of lunatics really don't want to stop." The Mizukage's face was very ugly. He took the initiative to retreat, but Yunnan still dared to make trouble. Did they really think that the honest people wouldn't get angry? The other Kirin Jonins were also angry. Although they just suffered a heavy loss, Yunnan wasn't much better, right? The third Raikage died in the battle with Rock Crypsis, and now they dare to take the initiative to provoke them? As for the authenticity of this information, they didn't doubt it. After all, it's Yunnan, it's normal for them to be stubborn. Mizukage-sama, teach those arrogant Yunnan a lesson. If we continue to endure, the enemy will only take a mile after taking an inch. Indeed, it's time to teach them a lesson. The Mizukage's face was gloomy. He was now angry. "Shinzuki, can you still fight?" Shinzuki licked her lips. "It's not a big problem." "Then you take 4,000 ninjas to the battlefield now." "Understood." Less than half an hour after this decision was made, just as the Mizukage was about to end the meeting, a Chunin anxiously came in and reported, "Mizukage-sama, it's not good." Woodleaf's army appeared on the border. The Mizukage's face changed, and he hurriedly asked, "Did they start?" The Chunin was startled. He shook his head and said, "No, but I'm not sure." "A warning?" The Mizukage frowned. It is reasonable to say that since they gave them time to react, it should mean that they have no intention of fighting. However, it was hard to say. Could it be that Woodleaf was deliberately lulling them? In short, he absolutely could not be careless. After thinking for a while, the Mizukage looked at the baby-faced ninja next to him. Yagura, you also take 4,000 ninjas to the border of Woodleaf. Pay attention, don't fight unless it's a last resort. Yagura nodded seriously. Yes, I understand. Soon, the ninjas in Kirin's camp gathered again. And all of this was seen by a certain someone who was secretly observing. Garashi, Kirin and those bastards really fell into the trap. Hyuga Mori asked excitedly, when are we going to do it? Be patient. Garashi whispered, when it gets dark, we will send Mizukage-sama on his way. At night, in the Mizukage's tent. Should I learn from Yunin and frame the last action on Woodleaf's head, saying that we sent him back with good intentions? The Mizukage was secretly thinking, when suddenly his heart throbbed, this is Chakra's wave? Without thinking much, he subconsciously jumped out of the tent. In the next moment, a high-speed rotating chakra shuriken flew and hit the tent. It quickly expanded and turned into countless thin needle-like wind blades. The tent was torn into pieces in an instant, even the small particles couldn't be preserved, and the ground seemed to be swallowed by a void monster, and a large part of it disappeared out of thin air. Although the Mizukage reacted quickly, his left arm was still scratched by the edge of the wind blade, and instantly blood dripped. However, for him, this kind of skin injury didn't matter at all. What really made him feel troublesome was that many of the meridians in his left arm were cut off. It was like poison in a ninjutsu. Damn, what the hell is this ninjutsu? The macroscopic power is powerful, but the lethality on the microscopic level is also so amazing. The Mizukage was secretly horrified, and a figure rushed out of the airwave to attack him. Damn, don't underestimate the Mizukage. As a veteran who grew up in the Warring States period, served as the first Mizukage guard, and even participated in the first 5 Kage meeting, his combat experience is naturally far from comparable to ordinary ninjas. Even in this extremely unfavorable situation, the Mizukage responded immediately. Ice Release Armor. Garashi's attack didn't break the armor, but the Mizukage took advantage of the impact of the attack to pull away from him. At this time, the Mizukage finally had time to see the appearance of the person. It's you. Shimizu Garashi. As expected of the Mizukage, this kind of printing speed is almost instantaneous, right? The Mizukage didn't think it was a big deal. He was already the limit of ordinary ninja, and if he wanted to improve his strength, he could only consider the development of forbidden techniques or shortening the printing speed. And he didn't have the talent of Naruto, so he could only choose the most stupid method of printing and practicing again and again. You bastard, do you want to provoke the war between Kirin and Woodleaf? The Mizukage asked impolitely. I should be the one asking you that. Garashi's voice was cold, using Rin as a tailed beast weapon. This kind of thing is beyond the scope of war. Just because of this reason? The Mizukage couldn't believe it, just because of a little Chunin to assassinate him. The Mizukage, is Woodleaf's people crazy? After the shock, the Mizukage was extremely angry. Our Kirin lost 50 Chunin, even the Sanbai was lost, and you just lost a Chunin, bastard, what do you think Rin is? Garashi didn't speak, but Kakashi shouted loudly. The Mizukage turned his head and looked at Garashi, his pupils suddenly shrank, and then he looked at Garashi, barrier? Are you planning to fight to the death with me? Seeing that the Mizukage didn't take him seriously, Kakashi was secretly angry, and at the same time, his thirst for strength became stronger. I have to account for the dead. Garashi's voice was calm, as if the person he wanted to kill was not a Kage, but a nobody. Your courage is commendable. But... The Mizukage's eyes swept over the people around him, and his face became more and more ugly. No matter how arrogant you are, there should be a limit. You think you can kill this old man with these little brats? At first, he was worried that Naruto would also come, or at least the Sannin or Namikaze Minato, but the result was more than a dozen little brats wanted to kill him, and they even rushed to Kirin's base. If he lost, even if he died, he would be nailed to the Kage's pillar of shame. Chapter 267. At the same time, a group of Kirin ninjas in the camp recovered from the shock of Kage's assassination. Go and protect Mizuki-sama. Hurry up and inform all the Jonins to come back. Even if the defense was empty, there were still hundreds of ninjas left in the camp. These ninjas acted together and broke out a lot of momentum. Aha! Konoha's proud blue beast Ginseng. Guy spread his wings in front of the enemy and said, "If you want to stop Senpai, you have to go through me first." Even in this tense atmosphere, seeing Guy's appearance, the Kirin ninjas in the direction he was in charge of shuddered subconsciously. Pervert. Super disgusting pervert. Guy's movement froze as if he was petrified, and he muttered to himself. Pervert? Don't make trouble, get ready to fight. Asma reminded him, seeing Guy was still depressed, he had to encourage him loudly. What's wrong with men being perverted? Isn't it youth to admit your perversion? Yes, this is also youth. Guy seemed to be influenced by the holy light, and he rushed toward the enemy. Look at my super perverted tornado. This guy. Asuma sighed helplessly, then glanced at the two people inside the barrier from the corner of his eye. You'll win, won't you, Shushi? Inside the barrier. They just don't want others to disturb us. I'm the only one who can do it. Garashi replied calmly. What an arrogant brat. Have those victories made you unable to see yourself clearly? The Mizuki's face was gloomy. It seems necessary to let you know that defeating a Jinchuriki is not the same thing as defeating a Kage. Ice release, magic mirror ice crystal. The moisture in the air condensed into ice, and instantly transformed the inside of the barrier into a world of ice. Then, the Mizuki seemed to sink into the water, and his figure gradually disappeared from the ice. This is similar to Haku's ice release? Garashi was a little surprised. He knew that the Mizuki could use ice release, but he didn't know which aspect of the Mizuki's development. In the next moment, water shadows appeared in every corner of the ice world. All the water shadows formed hand seals together, and hundreds of thousands of ice spikes pierced towards Garashi without leaving any blind spots. Earth escape barrier, earth prison none. The spell used to trap the enemy turned into a shelter under Garashi's control, blocking all the icicles flying from all directions. TSK, I thought you would use ice escape. Come on, I don't want to be tricked by you. Facing the Mizuki who could use the ice as a moving medium, Garashi couldn't use ice release rashly. Take this earth release as an example. Ice release can also have a similar effect, but the result is that the Mizuki can instantly move to a place closer to him. Since you like ice so much, you can stay in that world forever. Shushi slammed the ground with his monstrous strength. Cracks spread out like a spider web, and the entire world of ice shattered into pieces. However, the Mizuki's voice did not disappear, but became more chaotic and noisy. It's no use, even if the ice layer is broken into powder, as long as the essence is still ice, it has no effect on me. With that, the ice fragments automatically restored, and then shot out a cold light, with biting cold air, shooting towards Garashi at a very fast speed. Immortal art, Kami-e. Garashi manipulated his body to change shape freely like soft mud, avoiding the attack from an incredible angle. However, those light beams did not disappear. After hitting the ice layer, they were directly reflected. From the outside, it seemed that the whole enchantment space had become a laser network. Don't underestimate the power of ice. The temperature you have mastered is just the most basic part. The Mizuki's proud voice came from the ice mirror. This old man has studied for decades, and barely mastered ice release. Then I'm sorry, I'm not used to your development mode. Garashi, while dodging the light beams, sighed with emotion. I really envy you mediocre ninjas, you can spend so much time on one aspect. The Mizuki was depressed. He, the dignified Mizuki, was called a mediocre ninja? However, compared with this little monster in front of him, it seems to be true. The more the Mizuki thought, the angrier he was. Then don't run away. I didn't intend to run away. Garashi's energy continued to gather in his palm, and a super large chakra ball gradually formed. Moreover, I also want to see if you can come out alive after the ice crystal is broken into molecules and atoms. Perceiving the terrible chakra fluctuation, even the Mizuki in the different space had a burst of scalp tingling. Is this bastard a tailed beast? No, if I continue to stay in the ice world, it will be really troublesome. But if he goes out now, he will have to face the attack of a tailed beast. I must seize the opportunity. When the storm is over and the ice is not completely broken, I must go out. The light ball in Garashi's hand fell to the ground. Even if he tried to limit the attack to a small range, the sudden burst of energy storm still shook the enchantment space. The enchantment space on the edge was like this, not to mention the two people in the center of the explosion. Even Shushi himself had to put on a layer of earth release armor on the inside and an ice release barrier on the outside to survive. The Mizukage didn't have time to attack Garashi, and after coming out of the ice world, he quickly put a layer of ice barrier on himself. Survival is more important. The two sides fighting fiercely around them were also shocked by this sudden earthquake. Even outside the enchantment, they could perceive the huge movement inside the enchantment. Does that Shimizu Garashi want to die? This is too reckless. Mizukage-sama and he won't die, right? No matter what, this kind of attack is too exaggerated. It's like a tailed beast in human form. Seeing the Mizukage finally came out of the ice world, Garashi was slightly relieved. Using this kind of large-scale ninjutsu in such a relatively small and enclosed space is indeed a big risk. One or two more times, the enchantment will directly break. The Mizukage covered his chest and calmed down, then he shouted. You lunatic, don't drag me down with you if you want to die. Garashi smiled and said. Don't you think it's very exciting? The Mizukage was speechless. The Reikage was also like this. He always wanted to die together with him. There was no way to fight him. Humph. I don't intend to die with you. If he was in a desperate situation, of course, he wouldn't mind using his old life to exchange for Woodleaf, a genius with infinite potential. But the problem is, now the other side rushed to his home. As long as he delays a little bit, and when the reinforcements come back, he will win. In this case, of course, he didn't want to fight with the other side. Chapter 268. I have to hurry up. Garashi whispered and took out a large number of shurikens from the tool bag on his waist. Flying Thunder God Jutsu. The Mizukage narrowed his eyes. He was naturally familiar with Garashi's signature move. So, what are you going to do? Shushi shot his shuriken in all directions like a heavenly maiden scattering flowers, and then his figure suddenly disappeared. Almost at the same time as Garashi shot the shurikens, the Mizukage condensed dozens of ice shurikens and threw them out. In the next moment, Garashi's figure suddenly appeared in front of the Mizukage, and before he had time to make a move, the Mizukage also appeared on the opposite side. It was as if the two sides exchanged places at the same time. Noticing this scene, Asma and others outside the barrier were horrified. How is this possible? He actually dodged it. Does he also know the Flying Thunder God Jutsu? No, he formed a layer of frost on his body, and then used the frost as a medium to transfer it. Don't be too arrogant, kid. The Mizukage chuckled softly. I can do the same thing. This is the reason why he dared to delay time with the opponent. Under the premise that both sides have mastered similar teleportation abilities, it is impossible to determine the winner in a short time. Garashi couldn't help but sigh. Sure enough, compared with those Jinchuriki who only know how to use brute force, Yukage are really much more difficult to deal with. Acting rashly without knowing the enemy's information is a big taboo for ninjas. The Mizukage's voice was indifferent, and he mocked back. Now, what are you going to do? Under normal circumstances, I wouldn't be able to defeat you. However, under the restriction of the bounded domain, it's not impossible for me to defeat you. Shushi smiled calmly. Just like in the previous Chunin exam, he mastered the Flying Thunder God Jutsu and was forced into a dangerous situation by the Yuki. The reason was that the field was too narrow, and the mobility of the Flying Thunder God Jutsu was limited by pure speed. Hashiman Tanku, open. The Dragon Vein Chakra in the Een Seal was equivalent to the refined Immortal Technique Chakra. This also meant that he did not need to maintain the profound meaning of silence at all times. The explosion of the fifth gate and the buff from Sage Mode caused a layer of visible blue flames to appear around Garashi's body. What is this? The Mizuki's pupils suddenly shrank, and in a blink of an eye, the other side appeared in front of him. Without much time to think, he subconsciously moved to another ice crystal. Just as half of his body emerged from the ice, the layer of blue flame followed him like a shadow. Are you kidding me? This speed. The Mizuki cursed in his heart and quickly retracted his body and moved into another ice crystal. However, the situation was even worse this time. He had only stretched out half of his body when he saw a fist coming at him. He was so scared that he quickly shrank back. Then, the two repeated the process of moving and chasing. In the eyes of the outside world, this scene was inexplicably similar to a game called whack-a-mole. And the Mizuki was frantically testing the edge of being hit. However, the Mizuki was worthy of being an antique who survived from the Warring States period. After adapting to the game, the Mizuki became more and more relaxed. So the style of this game changed from whack-a-mole to kite flying. In this case, the sixth gate of view, open. Garashi took a deep breath, and his momentum skyrocketed, and the flame around his body changed to a golden color. After all, he had the experience of controlling Dai's body to feel the seventh gate in advance, so the first 7 gates were no secret to him. The real difficulty was the strength of the body. This was equivalent to learning ninjutsu, but the result was that chakra was not enough. He was only barely able to reach this threshold with the help of Sage Mode's buff. The Mizuki, who was in another dimension, was apparently unaware of the danger. Just as he was about to repeat the previous process, he was sent flying by Shushi's incomparably violent punch. The Mizuki crashed heavily into the enchantment barrier. Puff! How did the speed of this little devil become faster? Even if his body was covered with a layer of ice barrier, which cushioned most of the force, the Mizuki still spat out a big mouthful of blood. Of course, Shushi would not give him any time to rest. He followed up with another punch like a shadow. Again? The Mizuki was scared and quickly moved into the different space. This time, he didn't rush out, but hid in the space to calm down. Garashi didn't care, and calmly rampaged in the barrier. In this mode, his normal attack could destroy the ice crystals from the depths. The Mizuki in the different space felt his heart tighten. He could perceive that a large number of mediums were disappearing. If he waited a few more seconds, he may be lost in the different space forever. However, he did not panic because of this. Instead, he calmly analyzed, this brat's speed is too fast. I have no way to avoid it. Also, it's very risky to keep hiding in this alternate space. The only way is to break the seal as soon as possible. Only in a wide and open space can I really exert the advantage of the magic mirror ice crystals. But where can I break the barrier? The Mizuki thought to himself, to break the barrier, he must use ninjutsu, but no matter how fast he is, it will always take a certain amount of time. For ordinary people, this time may be too late to react, but the enemy is Shimizu Garashi, he absolutely can't have any fluke mentality. This also means that he must be prepared to withstand the other party's attack during this period. Even if I have the ice shield, taking 3 to 5 attacks is the limit, so I must try to break the barrier with only one blow. The Mizuki radiated his perception to the outside world and carefully observed the 4 people who set up the barrier. Wait, this guy's protective barrier, in his perception, there seemed to be a considerable crack in the barrier where one of them was located. Is it because of the previous destructive attack? Let's break through from here. He didn't worry that this was a flaw deliberately left by the other party, because he can perceive that this crack is real. Moreover, he has also collected information about Garashi's team, and he knows that the other party, except for a little bit of senjutsu, other aspects are simply ordinary. In this case, it is impossible for the wood leaf ninja named Mizuki to stop him. Thinking of this, the Mizuki no longer hesitated. After putting a layer of ice barrier in advance, he leaned out of the ice. Sure enough, as soon as he appeared, he was greeted by Garashi's storm-like attack. Yes, that's it. The Mizuki didn't resist, but took advantage of the situation to fly out. He deliberately chose a point in the middle of Garashi and Mizuki's line as a position to be hit. He wanted to shorten the time as much as possible. This game, I will win. Ice release, 4 pillars. 4 pillars of ice instantly smashed the built-in barrier protecting Mizuki, and then the remaining force hit him. Chapter 269. The ice pillar collided with the barrier, and the entire barrier space trembled violently. The purple flame on the barrier wrapped around the ice pillar, and suddenly a white fog rose up, blocking the line of sight. That guy should be frozen into a popsicle. The Mizukage thought darkly in his heart, and accelerated towards Mizuki's position. For him who lived in Kirin all year round, such an environment naturally had no hindrance. However, when he rushed to the corner of the barrier, he gradually felt that something was wrong. If the ninja named Mizuki died, the barrier should be lifted. Just as he was surprised, a pair of arms suddenly stretched out from the fog and firmly held him. Mizuki, who should have been turned into a popsicle, shouted loudly, "Garashi, now!" The Mizukage was startled, and he opened his mouth and spat out a few icicles towards Mizuki's face. However, Mizuki opened his mouth and swallowed all of these icicles. How is this possible? The Mizukage stared in disbelief. His icicles can even penetrate rocks. How did this guy eat them without changing his expression? However, he didn't have time to continue to wonder. Garashi directly teleported and appeared beside him, and his right leg like a long whip kicked him to the barrier. Puff! The Mizukage spat out a big mouthful of blood, and his whole body slid down from the barrier wall. Damn it, I can't go on like this. He knew that now was the most dangerous moment, and he didn't care about the consequences. After using the magic mirror ice crystal technique to move to another position, he immediately planned to use the forbidden technique. Ice release, freeze. However, just as he was about to launch the forbidden technique, the intuition of many years of ninja career made him alert, and he subconsciously dodged to the side. In the next moment, a strand of distorted void energy suddenly descended upon his shoulder and swallowed his entire right arm. Ah! The Mizukage screamed in pain, and looked back in disbelief. Who is this space ability? In his sight, Kakashi's left eye was closed, and a stream of blood flowed down, and his whole body was laughing loudly, looking very scary. Bordered soil, Rin, I will take revenge on you. It's him? The Mizukage was enduring the pain, and suddenly he heard Garashi's whisper, Mizukage-sama, did you forget something? Garashi arrived in an instant, and his right fist bombarded the Mizukage's lower abdomen like a heavy cannon, and the Mizukage was blown away again. This sudden turn of events left everyone dumbfounded. How did the situation suddenly take a turn for the worse and deteriorate to such an extent? Oh, Mizukage-sama can't hold. Shinitsuki, they haven't come back yet? At this moment, cheers came from the Mizukage. That's great. Lord Blowfish and Lord Thunderfang have returned. 7 swordsmen, cough, 2 of them can definitely save Mizukage-sama. Mizukage Sakura, the Mizukage, and Kaku, Sakura, and Rin, Sakura, and the reinforcements. Shushi didn't care. Is that so? Outside. Seeing everyone so excited, the 2 who hadn't figured out the situation were a little confused, and then they subconsciously looked at the most conspicuous barrier in the camp. Just one look was enough to make their hearts almost stop beating. Their Mizukage-sama's arm was cut off, his body was bleeding, and he was beaten by Shimizu Garashi without any power. As if aware of the 2's arrival, Garashi tilted his head, and his indifferent eyes shot into their hearts like arrows. At this moment, the 2 only felt that their souls were frozen, as if they returned to a year ago, when the monster dominated their lives. Don't think that I will be afraid of you. Today is the time for us to wash away the shame. Sakura shouted, Raiga, get ready. However, there was no response to his call. Raiga. Sakura turned his head and found that Raiga had left him and ran away. Raiga, what are you doing? We can't win, we can't be the opponent of that monster. Instead of staying to be buried with Kirin, it's better to be a traitor now. Seeing this scene, everyone couldn't believe it. Especially those Kirin ninjas, the hope that had just risen fell back to the bottom again. Are you kidding? Raiga-sama actually betrayed us? Just a glance scared Raiga-sama, so it turns out that Mizukage-sama is fighting with a monster of this level? Inside the barrier. Garashi looked at the opposite side with a smile. Is this the Kirin you want to show me? The Mizukage felt that his lungs were about to explode. At this moment, his killing intent for Raiga was even higher than Garashi. That bastard, how dare he betray Kirin? He just made a smart choice. Garashi snapped his fingers. Staying on the sinking ship of Kirin will only make him drown. Are we reaching the end? The Mizukage sighed slightly. No matter how much he doesn't want to admit it, he can see the fact that he will most likely die today, and for such a ridiculous reason. He lived through the Warring States period, lived through 3 great shinobi wars, survived so many dangers and difficulties, but he didn't expect that in the end, he would capsize because of a small chunin. However, even if I die... The Mizukage's face changed. I have to remove the threat to Kirin. You want to drag me down with you? Garashi smiled calmly. Don't you think it's too late? Wait until you can avoid this move. The Mizukage's body began to transform into ice, and his whole body exuded a chill that seemed to freeze time and space. Wait for your death in despair, absolute zero, idiot. You fell into a trap. At this moment, Garashi pressed his forehead and smiled. Open your eyes and see who is the one waiting to die. A trap? Wait, is this his genjutsu? Thinking that the opponent didn't use his powerful genjutsu during the whole battle, the Mizukage's heart tightened, and hurriedly dispelled the genjutsu and looked around. Then, he saw that Shinzuki and Yagura were desperate, and the rest of Kirin's ninjas were screaming, but the wood-leaf ninjas had already disappeared. No, stop it. The Mizukage clenched his teeth and forcibly stopped the genjutsu. Oh, fortunately, puff, suddenly, a sharp pain came, and the scene in front of him changed again. The Mizukage looked down at the arm on his chest and muttered to himself, what the hell is this? You can't even tell whether the genjutsu is real or not, you are really old. Garashi's right hand passed through the Mizukage's chest and whispered in his ear, in that case, I will send you to rest early. The Mizukage's eyes gradually became unfocused, and in the blurred state, he seemed to see the faces of the first Naruto and Uchiha Madara overlapping in front of him. What a terrible monster. Thinking of this, he used the last of his strength to shout, don't avenge me, surrender, and return to the land of water after the war. Chapter 270. Time seemed to freeze at this moment, and almost all of the Kirin ninjas couldn't believe their eyes. Their Kage was killed, and he was crushed by the enemy without any suspense. This is impossible, it must be fake. Yes, I must be under the enemy's genjutsu. Yes, it must be fake. How could Mizukage-sama let us surrender? Shimizu Garashi, this guy is definitely not human, he's a god, a demigod that transcends human beings. The entire battlefield was filled with cries and cries. The Kage who was the symbol of the village was killed in his home. The blow to morale and faith was too great. For a moment, they all fell into a perplexed state. Even Woodleaf and the others were shocked. No matter what, it was a Kage, a real figure at the top of the ninja world. Unknowingly, you have become so strong. Garashi. Asuma whispered in shock, I don't want to be left too far behind by you. As expected of Garashi, the embers of the old era are not worth mentioning in front of the light of the new era. Having said that, Mizuki was already thinking about how to use this to spread the news. Rin, we have avenged you. Kakashi muttered to himself in a daze. Although Lin wasn't dead, the thought of Lin being sealed in the ice for many years made him feel indescribably uncomfortable. Garashi calmly withdrew his arm from the Mizukage's chest and said, remove the barrier. Mizuki and the others removed the barrier at the same time, and their expressions were very relaxed. Because the Mizukage also had an ability similar to the Flying Thunder God, he didn't attack the barrier from the beginning, so they were indeed much more relaxed than expected. Not to mention changing the barrier, even their chakra still had a lot of energy left. Garashi's gaze swept through the rest of the Kirin ninjas. Although his eyes were calm and gentle, in the eyes of the Mist ninjas, it was as terrible as the gaze of a demon. This was especially true for the watermelon mountain pufferfish, whose soul trembled under that gaze. He was regretting it now, very regretful. If he knew this would happen, he would have run away with Raiga, but now he can start thinking about his last words. However, Garashi didn't seem to want to continue. After looking around, he said with a gentle face, I came here today for only one purpose, and that is to take revenge on the Mizukage. Since the mission has been completed, let's stop here today. After that, he turned around and left. Seeing this, all the mist ninjas were relieved and almost fell to their knees. Because of the Stockholm Syndrome, they felt an inexplicable sense of gratitude towards Soseki. Just as they were deep in thought, a water cannon shot towards Shushi from afar. At this moment, they were about to go berserk. Who is this bastard? Even if he wants to die, don't drag us. It's over, this time we are really dead. It was as if Mustache had eyes on the back of its head. Without even turning its head, it slapped the water column in another direction like a mirror refraction. Mizuki stopped, he made a gesture on his neck and asked coldly, Garashi, do you want us to do it? There's no need. You guys can leave first. Garashi smiled, I'm more concerned about the person who came, so I'll stay and play with him. Everyone knew Garashi's strength, so naturally, they weren't worried. Kurenai nodded, then be careful. Asuma sighed, even Garashi, you are so willful. In just a few breaths, a Kirin ninja with a baby face and an iron rod longer than his body rushed from the distance. Damn, Mizukage-sama is all ready. As soon as he arrived, he saw the Mizukage lying in a pool of blood, even his arm was cut off. It looks like the battle was very fierce. Hearing his whisper, the Kirin ninjas couldn't help but look at him strangely. The Mizukage-sama was the one who was beaten. Everyone, you have been working hard for so long, let's, however, before he finished his words, he heard everyone resist. Yagura-sama, why don't we just forget it? Yagura couldn't believe his ears, what did you say? Some of them were embarrassed by his stare, but some of them felt at ease since they were trying to save Yagura-sama. Mizukage-sama was killed in a fair battle. Mizukage-sama also said that we shouldn't take revenge. Yagura-sama, don't be impulsive, otherwise, you will be killed too. At this moment, Yagura's body seemed to be petrified. Was he the strange person? Shaking his head and throwing away those messy thoughts, Yagura walked towards Garashi alone. You are the sinner who killed the Mizukage, I can't pretend that nothing happened. Garashi looked calm, you know that I killed the Mizukage, but you still have the courage to stand up, your tolerance is really not small. My tolerance is not for you to judge. Yagura took a deep breath and drew a circle in front of him with a stick, and a water mirror suddenly appeared in the void. Water release, water mirror technique. The surface of the mirror fluctuated, and then a Garashi came out of it. The water mirror technique? Shushi asked in a low voice. Is it the water mirror technique? Shushi on the other side repeated like a recorder. This feeling is really unpleasant. Garashi's figure flashed and rushed towards the other side at a speed faster than the naked eye. Garashi repeated and rushed to the opposite side with the same posture. The next moment, a layer of ripples spread from the place where the two fought. After the confrontation, both of them returned to their original place unscathed. Yagura said with some pride, this mirror will do exactly the same movements as you, even the power of your ninjutsu can be imitated. Exactly the same movements? Garashi asked with a smile, although I'm not very clear about the principle of this technique, in any case, it is based on your chakra, right? Yagura instinctively felt something was wrong. What do you want to do? Garashi smiled, I just want to give you a warning, if you don't have a tailed beast level chakra, it's best not to use this technique casually. Garashi raised his right hand, and the solidified chakra condensed in his hand at a speed visible to the naked eye. The light ball was getting bigger and bigger, like a small sun. The Garashi on the opposite side also repeated this action, but when the size of the light ball reached a limit, the speed of increase suddenly slowed down. Yagura's face was already haggard, his steps were weak, and he almost couldn't stand still. Damn it, I'm going to be drained by him. If this goes on, I'll die from exhaustion of chakra. Thinking of this, no matter how unwilling Yugura was, he could only take the initiative to cancel his ninjutsu. Then, the uncontrolled chakra ball erupted like a volcano, the terrifying power swallowed Yugura, and the surrounding Kirin ninjas were also blown away by the shockwave. Garashi shrugged helplessly, if you don't have enough chakra, don't force it. Perceiving another powerful chakra quickly approaching, Garashi threw the light ball in his hand in the direction of the other side and directly flew away with the thunder god. Chapter 271. Noticing the beam of light rising from the camp, Shinzuki's eyes twitched. What the hell is this? Is this a tailed beast battle? This level of attack is something that even a Jinchuriki like him can only achieve when he's in his berserk state. Just as he was cursing in his heart, he suddenly saw a small sun flying towards him. What the hell is this? Shinzuki's heart almost stopped, and after perceiving the terrifying energy contained in the ball of light, he didn't want to run away. However, he was still one step too slow and was sucked in by the bright light. In the next moment, a beautiful firework bloomed. After a long time, when the light dissipated, and the dust disappeared, Shinzuki got up from the ground and walked towards the center while spitting out dust from his mouth. It's really terrible, but it's a lot better than I thought. Shinzuki looked around and was slightly relieved. Perhaps because they left early, most of the Kirin ninjas weren't affected too seriously. Huh? What's that? Walking to the center, Shinzuki saw someone stuck in the ground with a broken stick beside him. Shinzuki quickly stepped forward and pulled him out. Cough, cough. After being pulled out, Yugura coughed for more than 10 seconds. What the hell happened? Looking at Yugura's bloody face, Shinzuki frowned and asked. You and everyone else were hit by Shimizu Garashi's attack? Yugura's face turned green and red, and finally he whispered. No, I was hit by my attack. Sure enough, it was you. Huh? Shinzuki stared at him. In short, I lost control of my ninjutsu. Yugura said concisely. Shinzuki didn't know what to say for a while, and after a moment of silence, he asked. By the way, what about Mizuki-sama? He was killed by Shimizu Garashi. Yugura sighed. What? Even Mizuki-sama? Shinzuki's face changed, and then he sighed. Mizuki-sama is old, and Shimizu Garashi is too strong, so it's not surprising that he died. Yugura nodded in agreement. That guy is too strong. By the way, where is Mizuki-sama's corpse? Shinzuki looked around and asked. Yugura's body stiffened, and he mumbled, I think I blew it up. Shinue's mouth twitched. You're really something. After all this time, you're the one who caused this tragedy. In just a few days, the shocking news of the Mizuki's death quickly spread throughout the ninja world, making countless people speechless. If it was any other time, they might not have such a big reaction. After all, not everyone had a clear idea of Ying's strength. However, the Raikage had only been dead for less than 3 months, and the shock of fighting against 10,000 people was still lingering in people's hearts. In this case, the death of the Mizuki was particularly shocking, especially when he was killed in his own home. Yunin. Did you kill the Mizuki? A asked with a complicated expression. Not only did he kill him, but he crushed him without any suspense. Even after killing the Mizuki, he easily injured Kirin's Mizuki Yugura. It can be seen that he still has a lot of strength left. Dodai added. As expected of you, Shimizu Garashi. I picked up the Raikage's hat on the table and said solemnly, even if I become the Raikage, I won't dare to relax under your pressure. He knew very well that he was far from being as strong as his father, and the fact that the Mizuki could win against his father shows that the strength of the two of them is at least very close. Shimizu Garashi can kill the Mizuki, which means that the other party also has the ability to kill him. Raikage-sama, you should stay with Bai-sama during this time. Dodai whispered, even if you take a bath, sleep, or go to the toilet, you must not be separated. A's face turned black, even if he and Bai-sama are brothers, isn't this too intimate? As if seeing his unhappiness, Dodai added, "It's to protect Bai-sama." At this point, A can only agree with a black face. "Go and call Bai-sama." Rock Crypsis. Was the old guy Mizukichi killed? Inoki subconsciously touched his empty left leg and couldn't help but sigh. Sure enough, it's the age of the young. The shinobis on the field nodded in agreement. Although they have already negotiated with Woodleaf, they can't ignore the harm that man brought to them. During this period, they have planned revenge attacks more than once. Now that they heard the news, their anger was extinguished by a basin of cold water, leaving only cold sweat and fear on their foreheads. They looked at Inoki with eyes full of admiration. Fortunately, Tsuchikage-sama was quick to act, otherwise, Rock Crypsis would be the laughingstock now. That guy has become even stronger. Rashi sighed. Now, he is indeed more worthy of the title of demigod than Salamander. With that guy. Kitsuchi was a little unwilling. We have to look up to Woodleaf for the next 50 years, right? It's too early to make such a conclusion. Inoki was calm. I have experienced the era of first Naruto and Uchiha Madara, and now I'm still here. Isn't this different? Kitsuchi hesitated and asked. Woodleaf declined because of the ideological differences between first Naruto and Uchiha Madara, and Woodleaf doesn't have a strong character like Shimizu Garashi. We have never been the strongest, so we have always been united. Inoki's eyes were deep, but Woodleaf is different. Once they reach the peak, they will decline. Because they can't find the enemy, they will focus on their own people. So, the best way to deal with Woodleaf is to wait. Sand Crypsis. As expected of Kazekage-sama, you are really far-sighted. Fortunately, we have an alliance with Woodleaf, otherwise, we would be the ones who are afraid now. Listening to their flattery, Raza just wanted to say a few words, but before he could speak, he found that the wind was blowing in the wrong direction. As expected of our former commander, Garashi-sama is too strong. Kazekage-sama is really far-sighted. He must have guessed the strength of Garashi-sama, so he didn't compete for the position of commander of the coalition forces. The corner of Raza's mouth twitched, speechless. Can't you guys restrain yourselves? Shushi isn't here yet. However, Garashi is really strong. Raza sighed in his heart. He killed the Mizukichi and seriously injured the Tsuchikage, and he knew more than the average person. He knew that Garashi almost destroyed the Kazekage's puppet. In this way, only the Hokage and Raikage of the third Kage of each village were spared. Maybe you can become strong like the first Naruto or Uchiha Madara. Raza secretly sighed. He also understood why others praised Garashi so much. After all, that level of strength is no longer limited by the village. Thinking of this, Raza knocked on the table. Everyone's attention was drawn back, and they looked at him with questioning eyes. The war should be over soon, and the exchange plan I agreed with the Hokage before the war began can be put on the agenda. Raza looked to the side and said, Pakura, when the time comes, you will be the one to invite and accompany Shursui. Pakura gladly accepted. Yes. Sitting in the distance, Marky looked at the Kazekage in disbelief. Isn't this his task? He was promoted to a jonin at the end of the war. So, love will disappear, right? Chapter 272. Half a month later, in the underground cave of the Land of Grass. Bordered Soil was practicing various powerful secret techniques taught by Madara. Madara was sitting and watching quietly, but his inner thoughts were not as calm as his appearance. Is this guy's talent all in love and romance? Once he closes his heart, the speed of his growth is amazing. Even in his opinion, Bordered Soil's talent was too good. You know, what he taught was not ordinary ninjutsu, but high-level ninjutsu such as Six Paths and Yin-Yang Release. Even these ninjutsu could be learned quickly, which was beyond his initial expectations. Let's take a break first. No, I can continue. Madara asked weakly. Why, don't you want to know about Rin? Bordered Soil looked up fiercely and asked with a trembling voice. Rin? Recently, her name has been mentioned constantly. Well? What do you mean? She was a chunin, but she became the fuse of the Mizuki's death. Madara smiled. Of course, everyone will be curious about her. The Mizuki was killed? Bordered Soil frowned. What the hell is going on? Shimizu Garashi, you should be familiar with this name, right? He rushed into Kirin's station with a dozen kids and killed the Mizuki in front of those Kirin ninjas, the culprit of your Rin's death. Madara's voice was low, and there was a rare flash of amazement in his eyes. Even in his opinion, the kid named Shimizu Garashi was too powerful. After all, he opened his Sharingan at the age of 15. At the same age, even he couldn't compare with him. Senpai, he. Bordered Soil's face was complicated, and after a moment of silence, he asked. This also means that Rin is indeed dead, right? Madara leaned back against the stone wall. You should know this better than me. Bordered Soil exhaled heavily, and his eyes became firm again. Let's begin. There's no time to waste. Madara's mouth was slightly raised. Indeed, there is nothing to care about in this fake world. Country of Rain, in an abandoned building. Amazing. As expected of Garashi. Yahiko exclaimed. You can even defeat an enemy of that level. I've heard that Kirin is ready to admit defeat. He's planning to give up his interests on the continent and return to the Water Nation. Conan said. It's not just Kirin. Yunin and Rock Cripsis seem to have stopped fighting because of their concerns. Nagato muttered to himself in a trance, so, a person's strength can really reach this level? In other words, if someone is strong enough to make everyone afraid, there will be no war in this world. Seeing Nagato there, Conan couldn't help but wonder. Nagato, what are you talking about? Nagato shook his head slightly. Nothing, I'm just happy. Finally, I can see the dawn. Yes. Finally, I can see the dawn. Yahiko excitedly took over the topic. According to my observation, after every war, there will be a period of peace for more than 10 years. During this period, we should work hard. If we can convey the idea of peace to everyone's heart while everyone understands the pain caused by war, maybe there won't be another war. However, Conan reminded him. The war is indeed over, but that's for the big countries. Yahiko hesitated and asked. Conan, are you worried about Hanzo? Conan nodded worriedly. The development of the organization is indeed getting better and better, but the more so, the more worried I am. Yahiko waved his hand and smiled. Don't worry, we don't have the ambition to occupy the country of Rain. It's okay as long as the misunderstanding is cleared up. Land of Iron, outside the meeting room. The ninjas of each village gathered together and discussed in a low voice. The 5 Kages meeting to negotiate a contract should have started, right? Didn't they say that the 4th Mizuki hasn't been chosen yet? I heard that their senpai will temporarily go to the meeting. That's great. The war can finally be over. Although I don't want to say this, we may have to thank that Shimizu Garashi would leave for ending the war ahead of time. There is such a saying, it is said that the direct reason for this meeting is that he killed the 3rd Mizuki. I really don't know how that guy did it. He is obviously much younger than us, but he already has the strength to deter the 5 great ninja villages. Walking on the road, Garashi could feel the ninjas of other villages casting various looks at him. Surprise, fear, worship, hatred, and so on. Garashi, you are completely famous this time. Asma couldn't help but envy. Maybe the textbooks will mention you in the future, saying that you are the man who ended the 3rd Shinobi World War. Garashi didn't care about it, as long as the juniors don't complain that I added a lot of content to the history books in the future. Kurenai smiled. I don't know if we will be written in the history books. I'm really looking forward to it. Shizun also looked forward to it. I suddenly have a feeling of walking into the history books. Mizuki had a deeper understanding of this. Garashi must have guessed that this would be the result, for the peace of the shinobi world, so he killed the 3rd Mizuki regardless of the danger, right? So that's the case. Guy couldn't help but admire. Mizuki, you know senpai the best. Mizuki couldn't help but smile, and his eyes narrowed into a line. Of course, no one knows Garashi better than me. At this time, a beautiful woman with a gentle appearance came over. Excuse me, are you Shimizu Garashi, Sama of Woodleaf Hidden Village? Garashi stopped and turned to look at her. I am, and you are? The beautiful woman put her hands on her lower abdomen. Sorry to disturb you. I am Mithreya of the Land of Demons. I would like to borrow your time for a few minutes. At the same time, in the meeting room, the atmosphere was not harmonious. To be more precise, it was full of hostility, filled with the smell of gunpowder. Oh, Tsuchikage, you are really working hard. I was very unhappy with the rock Cripsis who killed his father, and took the lead to fire. You are so old, and your legs are disabled, but you still came all the way to attend the meeting. Even I, an outsider, can't stand it. What a rude kid. Anoki had seen a lot of battles, so naturally, he wouldn't be easily angered, and in turn, he mocked, but I can understand. After all, no one can teach you etiquette. I slammed the table. What did you say? Anoki was surprised. Not only do you not understand etiquette, you don't even understand the language. Reikage's family education is bad to this point? Chapter 273. Mifune, as the arbitrator, felt a headache coming on and hurriedly tried to smooth things over. Everyone calm down, this is a peace conference, not a declaration of war. However, Mifune's dissuasion was like adding fuel to the fire. AI roared. Of course, we are here to negotiate. As long as Rock Cripsis is willing to compensate us with 2 billion Rio, I will let them go this time. Idiot son of an idiot father. Anoki sneered mercilessly. Do you think you have the upper hand now? You should be the one to compensate Rock Cripsis. Who are you calling an idiot? Little bastard, do you want to taste this old man's dust release? Raza, who was sandwiched between the two, had an innocent look on his face. These two guys were quarreling. Why did they have to spit on him? On the other side, Kirin's sensei had a heavy expression. Our Kirin has always been peace-loving. Woodleaf took away the ninja sword, and the team that escorted the guests back was slaughtered by you. We endured all of these. But we didn't expect that our concessions would only make you more aggressive. This time, you were cruel enough to kill the Mizukage-sama. On behalf of Kirin, I strongly condemn Woodleaf. Seeing Sensei put himself in the position of the victim, everyone couldn't help but think that he was shameless. As long as they weren't idiots, they could see that Kirin was the one who started this. Before Sandaime had time to speak, Danzo said in a cold voice. The ninja sword was taken away because Kirin attacked our people first. The team was slaughtered because you planned to release the bijou in Woodleaf. The Mizukage was killed because we had enough of your stupidity. I'll say one last thing. Being killed instead of being surrounded is the most shameful thing in the world. How dare you say it out loud? Several of Konoha's guards looked at Danzo with shock. Danzo's killing spree today is really crazy. Sandaime simply shut up and quietly watched Danzo's performance. Sensei said seriously. This is a rumor. How dare Kirin's 7 legendary swordsmen besiege him? Haven't you heard that Reo was scared by him and fled? Even Kirin's guards were a little embarrassed. Sensei's logic was reversed. Did he think everyone was a fool? As for the escort team, without waiting for him to finish, Danzo slammed the table. It seems that you don't have the sincerity to negotiate. Hiruzen, let Garashi go to Kirin again. As soon as he said that, several people from the hidden fog village shouted out in fear. Wait, don't be impulsive. We are very sincere. We are all civilized people, it's not good. Sensei's words, sensei, 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 sensei. Sensei's he, Danzo, Dante, and the others, Danzo. How can you just flip the table like that? Isn't this bullying? Having said that, he could only reluctantly admit defeat. Ahem, maybe my information was wrong. Everyone has a bad memory. Sandaime also didn't want Woodleaf to become a public enemy, so he stopped. Then let's start the negotiation again. The next thing was much simpler. Even Yunan's rock Cripsis seemed to be affected. Fearing that Woodleaf would use Garashi as a warning, they chose a treaty that wasn't too bad for both sides as soon as possible. This inexplicably harmonious scene made the Sand Crypsis, who had been watching from the sidelines, amazed. As expected of Garashi, even his name can have such an effect. After the meeting, the other villages left the venue one after another, but Sandaime and Danzo stayed. Danzo lowered his eyelids and asked, "Hiruzen, do you still remember what you said before?" Sandaime joked. "Are you worried that it will be difficult to see Elder Chio again after the war, so you want me to help you propose marriage?" Danzo said with a cold face. "Don't play dumb with me. You know I'm talking about your resignation." Sandaime narrowed his eyes. "Are you in such a hurry for me to step down?" "I'm just afraid that you'll forget, Anne." Danzo snorted. "I'm not doing this for myself." Sandaime had an "I know" expression. "I know, it's for Woodleaf. Right?" "Of course, it's for Woodleaf, but..." Danzo sneered. "Do you think I want to be Naruto?" Sandaime was really surprised this time. "Isn't that so?" Danzo closed his eyes and said indifferently, "I will nominate Orochimaru to be Naruto." "Orochimaru?" Sandaime frowned. "Are you serious?" "Of course I'm serious." Danzo smiled sinisterly. "Orochimaru is young and powerful, and he's known as one of the Sannin in the shinobi world, and he's also a civilian ninja, and most importantly, he's your disciple, Hiruzen. Isn't such a person trustworthy?" Sandaime was silent for a moment, then said, "Danzo, you've changed a lot." Danzo sighed. "People change, at least I've seen a lot of things in this war." After a moment of silence, Sandaime got up and left. "I will seriously consider your proposal, you can also think about it." After Sandaime left, Ryuma appeared from the shadows and whispered in Danzo's ear. "Danzo-sama, everyone is here." Danzo nodded slightly and lowered his voice. "Ryuma, do you think Hiruzen saw through my forbearance?" "Of course not, your acting can be said to be flawless." Ryuma praised. "Too much change will make people suspicious, and you chose Orochimaru as the starting point. On the one hand, you don't have the ambition to become Naruto, and on the other hand, you used Orochimaru to make Naruto understand that you're still the same Danzo-sama who likes to go against him." Danzo nodded in agreement, then frowned. "When did I like to go against him? I just think that his weakness will lead Woodleaf to the abyss." Ryuma nodded. "Yes, this subordinate has misspoken." Danzo stroked his chin, and his eyes were gloomy. "I didn't hesitate to show my goodwill to them, and even pretended to be eroded by those playthings, just to make them feel that I'm no longer a threat. All of this is to wait for an opportunity that I don't know if it will appear or not." At this time, Ryuma whispered. "Danzo-sama, everyone is here, if you don't go, they may find someone else." "What?" Danzo's face changed when he heard this, and he hurriedly stood up and walked outside. This old man is going to understand the overall situation and game psychology. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.